Mic check. Welcome to the channel, guys. This is Reliable Rudy. Uh, Before we go into any charting analysis, any trading analysis, or anything to do with the stock market today, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everything in this video contains only my opinion, nothing more, nothing less. Trying to give you guys some entertainment, doing what I love to do, and hopefully make some money in the process. So the sole title name, let's go right into it. The sole title name, the solo name for today is GM. We were talking about GM a lot on Friday, and before we kind of had our chart set up like this. We ended the stream, and once I seen it kind of break this, we didn't take the trade right here. We weren't right on top of it, guys. We're not like, oh, yep, channel's broken. This small descending channel is broken. We're in. No, we gave this a decent amount of time. We didn't want to rush into anything, but I was very interested in GM. We had our order in off of 32.50. It opens up at 32.58. But once I did see that channel break, all I did was put this fib tool, and you can see this price action that keeps holding this half right here. At the time when we took the trade, was our first fill was a 32.40 or a 32.94. Excuse me, I have a hard time talking. And we might have had it set something like this, where we're like, okay, it's continuing to hold these lows right here. The candle we actually took that 94 fill was right here, and I said that even if it comes down and breaks down this support, we're going to be interested probably down into these 80s. So just canceling everything. You guys see how it holds a half. We end Friday's trading day bullish. We actually ended up above 33. So all I did today, I seen the gap up, and I was like, do I want to put this order off of 33, or do I just want to wait? So once we identified that we were getting a gap up, all I did was simply put a trend line, and we can actually go back to how I had this is exactly how I had my chart for the day. So you can see this very first line at 33.02. Once I seen it out starting to give up these lows, we put the order in at 33.05. No, we put the order in at 33.02 when the price was at 33.05. And had we gotten that fill, we seen it keep coming down a little bit, so we just wanted to give it a little bit of time. It gives a nice quick pop, so I probably would have been really interested underneath that 33. Meeting up with this trend line, we just never quite got there. But that is the sole name for today. Mr. Drift, how we doing, brother? GM is the sole fill that we have today. No sells. We were keeping an eye on Invax. We still have this Invax trade, which is on a nice rip right now. I didn't even realize it was at 22s when I started the stream. But we were watching it. We were on the had the order for possibly getting out of this name. But actually, I ended up switching the sell to as soon as it gave up sevens, I switched the sell button to a buy button, and I was going to buy some more shares. And what I had marked is for my potential outs was a break of 7. But I just wasn't sure about this 7. We were actually going to think about maybe buying some off this 7. The next area was this 680, and my next stop, if I really want to run a hard stop, is going to be this 650. But more than likely, I probably would have stayed true to this 680. If it would have gave out all of this support down here and been a knife all the way through here, I probably would have gave it up. So maybe Invex could be a title name. With it catching a bid, taking out the highs from the gap up. And maybe it's a cut from this position. We do have a lot of resistance that it's been rejecting up towards these 50s. You can see the wick. But now kind of that washout bottom. Same way I would treat out a washout top. Let's see if this can really get going. Hopefully somebody got into the wrong position short wise and thinking that it's going to break this 7. But all in all, what kept me in this is that, hey, we have a reasonable trend line. We were only on the second candle of the day when it really took this out. It takes out the lows on the first candle. Second candle goes a little bit lower. We said, hey, we have all day. We have all day for this to end up holding. And I lied to you, Drift. I did have one more ad. I forgot. We had Devon Energy pulled back in. I think we got 53s. It went below 50s, and as soon as it reclaimed 50s, we upped that order. We had the order in off of the 48 flat. It was actually a 48.05. And then when we seen it fill this gap at 48.50s, right here, 48.54 gap fill, we moved that order up to 48.55 on Friday. Well, that never came in. And am I okay averaging up on this company? Yes, I am. I would have loved to get some a cheaper fill. But the 49.40 or 96 was the sole fill that we have, so we averaged up for a little bit of shares today for that reclaim of 50s. And honestly, I'm actually expecting it to pull back in. If it pulls back into 50 flat, I think I'll be put in a position where maybe I'll buy some more shares. But I'm really liking how this Devon Energy is really stepping up. Normally, when you see these nice green candles off the open, you get the consolidation, take out the highs. Is this going to be some sort of trend change? Where if you look at the end of the day Friday, if you're looking at this as a neckline, you push it and you hold it as support. Now you're getting a gap up. You know, if it wants to pull back down in the 50s, I really like the way that this name is setting up, and you can see our strength reclaiming that positive. So just a little bit of a false break of that negative, but the main catalyst that we had with this name in the first place is that, you know, a lot of oil is up testing this low and testing up towards this gap. Uh, what is the deal and why Devon Energy hasn't? They're still continuing to pay off debt, high margin. You know, oil has maintained these 80s and holding these 80s. They pay a decent dividend and they're buying back shares. That is a formula that I love to punch long into. You know, can it catch a relief rally to some other oil? Am I extremely bullish on Devon compared to other oil? No, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go that far. I would say that if it was going to catch a relief rally compared to other oil, it's potential that this is a swing. So I'd look at this as more of a swing. Some of my long oil where I really don't care what it does. You know, you could say it's setting a double top, but I'd say XLE is my baby. Uh, Holding a nice trend line. This is just an oil fund. 25 of the best United States oil companies out there. It actually has Devon in it, I believe. But I'd say MRO is actually my favorite oil play outside of like the main oil, your ExxonMobil, your Chevron. Well, when you're looking at XLE, ExxonMobil and Chevron is like 40, north of 40% of XLE. So I already feel like I already own those individually. But MRO is one that was not a larger position in Exxon or in the XLE fund. And you know, I like how they do not pay a very big dividend. I like that they maintain some of that cash in the business and they focus on uh, buying back more shares based off the price of oil. So if you're looking at the price of oil holding up in these 80s, they're going to be distributing more of that cash flow to buying back shares. As they buy back shares, it decreases the pie. As the pie decreases, my ownership percentage, even though it doesn't go up much, my ownership percentage goes up uh, quarter after quarter after quarter as they continue buying back more and more shares. So that's the catalyst. You know, is Devon Energy going to catch a bid? I don't know. I don't know. The other name that I would say is of interest is maybe Neo. But it would have been off. Look at how we marked. There's nothing that's changed. We had a tight channel. We marked the neckline. We marked the neckline, and we marked the gap. That was it. Look at that low right there. Maybe you could call that a test of 50s, and maybe we could mark these lows, which meets up to this support as good support that it held. It's at a short-term double bottom. That's where our original neckline is. But claiming 11s on a full green engulfing candle, how is it going to act testing these lows? And how is it going to act filling the gap? So, in all honesty, I could see maybe this catching a bid up to those 1150s. It's possible. Uh, but in terms of the rest of the watch list, you know, Nasdaq short gapping down below the tight channel to the upside. Okay, how is it going to act testing the previous highs, which is 1975? So already wicking down towards those 20s. I still think that you have your strength is there with the Nasdaq short. I'm not opposed to averaging more shares for this position. You know, if it were to get down into these 19s, I think that is a reasonable area, and maybe it needs to crack this sort of trend line, test these lows, maybe come back in the 17, and maybe even retrace down and try to fill this gap. That, you know, this is what the catalyst has been. It wasn't able, the buyers kept buying it up above this gap. What was the reason for it, right? So maybe we do need to come back down into this range, but I would say this is going to be a buying opportunity for me for the Nasdaq short, which if it does get down there, you're going to be against strength. Uh, but showing me that demand down in that range, if it pulls back in there, it may be a name that I try to go against strength. So yeah, other than that, we can look at some other names. GNS was one that we were maybe keeping an eye on, just because, you know, this test into these wick highs right here, it was able to push it on nice volume, pulled back in on light volume, and Friday showed me that, hey, these buyers pushing that volume stick above that pullback area, now getting a gap up. Are we going to get a continuation that can take out these highs at 170? You know, if that is the case, I would start looking at this as a retracement where, you know, top of the move, bottom of the move, that first retracement meeting in with this low, which kind of was a flat bottom break. As soon as it breaks it down, it keeps rejecting 25s, and then boom. Test doesn't quite get up to 25s, but if it does, give that false wick up to those 220s, you know, that is a reasonable potential on the trade. So G and S, and we'll clear this whole chart out, and we'll go to a 15-minute. I'll show you why I like it. Gives that gap up. Now maybe you call this a washout top, but you do have the increasing volume candle to candle. Pullback candle number one decreases volume. It's a full red engulfing candle, and maybe setting up a stair step. But if that stair step does come into play, you're going to see it test these lows again. Where if you get some sort of higher low confirmation, and then you could say maybe a descending channel in the works right here. You know, not a perfect channel, but if I went to a 5-minute, maybe you can see it a little bit better. You can see early looks of a descending channel. If it tests down to the bottom end of this channel, how's it going to act holding these 130s? If it gives up 130s, I'd expect a test of maybe a quick wick off into 125s, but you have some decent support in here, and possibly the start of some sort of uptrend that also meets with a channel. You can see the channel building right there. So how is it gonna play out? I do think for a cheaper company, trading volume up bigger on the day, more volatile, I think that there is potential with the play. But how is it going to act? I don't know. Looking back at Invax, nice increase of volume relative to what it has been doing. You can see some nice green candle moves here. At the time, you could say, yeah, it's a decent increase in volume compared to what it was doing. Yes, a decent increase of volume compared to what it was doing. Yes, a decent increase in volume compared to what it was doing. Well, now, right when we're really at the brink of, okay, do we need to get out of this company? We're right at the trend line. We're kind of giving up the trend line. You can see the increase of red volume as we're giving out these lows, but then the rebound with this true increased volume getting over 100K on back-to-back candles, and now putting in a third candle green, possibly getting ready to take out 240s. Is this discrediting the sort of channel that we had drawn? This is how we had our chart set up all Friday. We had this descending channel set, and we had our uptrend set along with that. I don't know why I got rid of that channel right there. But I would say, you know, testing the top end of the channel, what if it pulls back in into the middle of this green move and these same buyers come back into the name? So right now, if I was looking at maybe if I didn't have this, the middle of this green move meets in right at this previous high at a 720. You have your EMAs meeting in there as well. Is this going to be a catalyst for some continuation, a break through this descending channel and finally pushing those 750s? If this is a name that wants to push 750s, I'd say your breakout is truly at the wick top from Thursday. So that's a 762. But all in all, I think it's a decent look. Neo, continue getting some more continuation to the upside. End phase, man, we have really been watching end phase. Not as much of a negative strength. It's still negative, but this is a name that I'm gonna play against strength. Probably has some sort of tight descending channel, something in the works like this. But if this was the case, you can see the buyers holding it up from getting to the bottom end. For now, that doesn't mean that it can't get there. But this is a name I have a cost average in the 160s, small size, it's a very small part of my portfolio, and something that I haven't even averaged into yet. So once I get that first average in, I'm going to be sure to let you guys know, and I will update you guys on the new cost average because this is a name that I'm looking long term with. And when I have a name that I really like long term, I really don't care about that short term move. That short term move like this. I would even call all of 2023 a short term move for my vision for this company. I'm probably looking to hold this, north of 5 to 10 years, depending on how the price action goes. Now, maybe if I get a decent average in and we push back up to this 220 gap, okay, maybe we can think about some trims. Maybe we can think about lowering some of that capital that we have allocated to it. Okay, when that day comes, that day comes. But for right now, down in underneath 150, I would say I'm very interested in the long. So even if this were to catch a bid up to, into the 140s, I'm still not even opposed to trying some shares, even though it was just down. It's tapped into the 120s a couple times. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm showing patience. Sometimes showing patience is your best friend when you're trying to build a long-term position. But looking back at GM, the sole name for the day, is this going to be out of the woods yet? No, no. I don't think so. I do like this support. Uh, and we only have two fills on the name, but I would love to get this name down in the 32s. 32 flat is going to be an area that I really want to play. And if I'm lucky, this 3150 gap, there's going to be an open order on it. There's no question about that. But some of these other names, Geo, we've really been keeping an eye on this 7 level. If it wants to give up these 7s, I would say you're going to have some downward pressure, and it doesn't mean that it's going to come down and test to this uptrend, maybe. So am I going to be interested in holding something against me for that long? I don't know. But if you look at the move, top of the move, bottom of the move, you can see that last retracement down here in these upper sixes could be of interest. So I'm going to be put in a decision if it wants to give up those 7s, and maybe it's going to be one of those plays where, okay, give it a couple days, see what happens. I'm not sure, but we are sticking true to the swing that we built on Geo. But top movers for today. Let's go over some top movers for today. BGLC, I know that was trending last week. Nice volume increase, pullback candle now flirting with the highs. Your strength still isn't there. So if you're trying to play early entries before strength is there, looking at the 15 minute, yeah, it looks like it's a nice pop in volume right here, but still only 84K, which relative to what the move did originally, it's maybe just not quite there yet. You could maybe look at it as a retracement play where okay, let's see how it acts. If it can catch a bid up to these 702s, let's see it come back in and test this sort of trend line that it would make. So makes a push, retraces back down. Maybe we're looking at next week. This is a play. But I don't think this name is there yet, personally. TNBR up 100%, the top mover of the day, gapping up over top. Is this a 250 neckline? Is it going to reject these threes? You are getting a fresh positive break. I'm sure they had something to do with the earnings this morning. Okay, I would be more interested waiting for this to come back in all the way back to 170. I'm not a fan of taking this trade right here. Uh, because I feel like I wouldn't be comfortable holding it overnight. So if it's something that I'm not going to be comfortable holding it, what is my true potential for the day? To be able to assume how this is going to play out, maybe you have some sort of descending channel build, which is a tight channel. You know, when I seen this first candle give out these lows, I said, watch out, we're going to come on in, test of these 250s perhaps. Well, now it's trying to hold, so it's tough to see how this one's going to play out, but all in all, I would say that it's probably not going to be a name that I trade today. Looking at some other movers, Moderna, my bad, Madonna. A really nice setup right here, honestly, and just mapping out, you know, these highs right here. Is this some sort of ascending channel build right there? Uh, Pushing right up to the top end of the channel. So a really solid look, I would say, in my opinion, right here. And maybe this is what's helping my NVAX trade. You know, NVAX still pushing, flirting with the wick highs, which it gets as high as 740, but flirting with this channel. Is this channel set properly? Maybe we can just mark the wick tops, meeting in with this last wick top. So this one I'm not really focused on. Focused on boom, boom, boom. So is this going to reject from this area or not? Is the question that I'm going to be looking for. Looking at some other names. Baba. Baba's close. I am not opposed to staying away from Baba, and I'm very interested down here in these middle 85s. I keep going back to the average shares that the company buys back, and that's been the last 2 quarters. It's been around those upper 80s, 88 to 89. So any price below that, I'm not going to be opposed because I know I have that $16.3 billion buyer on my side. Okay, maybe if it gives up this trend line and we trade down into 80 flat, maybe we trade down into the low 70s. I still have that big buyer on my side, and the company's going to keep buying back cheap shares, in my opinion. I think they're cheap shares. I think they're undervalued. Is there political risk? Is there other risk tied to it? Of course. Of course. With any single investment, there is going to be risk tied to it. I mean, I don't care what you're trading. If you, this is why generally if I was talking to somebody that was new with the stock market, I would focus on ETFs. And my two ETFs that I really love and will hold probably my entire life, you know, I would say XLE, but looking at the long-term future of oil, like looking my entire lifespan into, let's say, 2050, can I guarantee that XLE is going to be a viable ETF to hold the rest of your life? I don't know. But VT, I would. This is your world's economy. You're looking at 9,000 broadly diversified holdings, 60% United States, 40% international. I think you're getting very broad exposure. And to you know, I would say that it is weak. You're getting a negative break, but I mean, the same thing goes with the Nasdaq. Nasdaq is very similar, where you're getting that negative break, but on your weekly chart, you're still holding good positive strength. Is this an opportunity where, okay, even though it's off its lows from 70s up to 90s, I do think that when you get opportunities like this, it is not terrible to, you know, if you didn't have any exposure into the stock market and you're looking just for some clear, broad exposure, I would say VT, and the other name is VXUS, which VXUS is the international equivalent of VT. You can see breaking through a sort of a channel on your weekly chart. You're getting close to that negative break, but if I go to a daily, you can see uh, down in this oversold area, 100 or 160 negative strength. It's tough to say. Looking at how I have the chart set up, I think you can imagine where I'd be more bullish on it. It has really good support down here, and down underneath 50 is a no-brainer in my opinion. Whether you're looking short term or long term, especially long term. But those are two ETFs that I will probably be holding for the rest of my life. But another ETF, I would say XLE, and we talked about XLE early. But oil is holding very good strength on your daily chart, and on your weekly, you're getting a fresh positive break on this downtrend break. You look at the monthly on oil. Oil still holding very good strength on the monthly. Is this run over? You can see if this was just a run, you can see the sideways consolidation setting higher lows throughout the entirety of the move. Uh, is it going to be something that ends up taking out the highs? Are we going to see $100 oil? Uh, Maybe. I really don't. I don't know. If we've seen $100 oil, I would expect XLE to continue performing well in the short term. But all in all, time will tell. Looking at Ford a little bit red, but you can see the support level that we have set right here. In these 11s, I don't think you can go wrong trying to build a position. You know, just average accordingly, and maybe you can get 1150s. Maybe you can get this support line. Maybe you get stopped out, or maybe this support gives up. And I would say you have some pretty clean levels to the downside. You know, whether it's 1050, whether it's off of this 950. This, there isn't really much here in between 1050 and 950, so you could see some exhaustive move to the downside. But I like the earnings report. I thought the earnings report was really good. I think it pays a decent dividend, and you're getting that revenue growth and some exposure to that car market, which car margins are shit. Or, excuse my language. Car margins are very bad as it is. But keep it with a grain of salt. I like to focus more of my long-term positions on higher margin companies. But I do think that it's reasonable. Looking at Invex, getting a rejection. I didn't even see that green candle we were watching. That green candle that we were watching kind of gave a false break. It closed above it, but not quite there yet. So maybe a pullback into these 20s. We'll see if this can catch a bid, build some sort of U shape, and then give me some confirmation that, okay, we are going to break this downtrend. Okay. So let's see if we can find something to trade where we can take advantage of some short-term move. Let's take a look back at GNS. You can see it just kind of chopping sideways. So is this going to give that stair step look? Boom, boom, boom. Maybe, I don't know yet. So we'll give it just a little bit more time with this one. Looking at, just keeping an eye on the volume over here. SPGC, this was an IPO. 80K volume. Not really there. Docs. Moderna strong. Look at that channel break. Sometimes just marking that channel and trusting it, even though it wasn't getting contact at the top end. That's what was kind of scaring me on Friday, is that it wasn't testing the top end of this channel. It tested a couple times, it broke it, and then just traded sideways. Looking at the daily, let's see how close we are getting. The strength still just not quite there. You can see the tight descending channel, and maybe if this rejects some of these levels to the upside and then pulls back in, that strength is still going to continue to kind of slope up a little bit. So Docs is definitely one that we have our eyes on, but I would say you probably have excuse me, I feel I'm a little sick today. I woke up, it didn't feel very good. I'll try to mute my mic every time I'm going to cough, but my throat feels a little bit scratchy, which is alright. It's something I can tough through. But looking at some other high margin companies that have given up the ghost, I'd say ZI is one. Zoom Info Technologies. So I want to see this keep giving up the ghost. So you can see even though you're down here, you think you set a bottom on the commodity. Look at the price is still just giving that drop down. But with this name in particular, I would say you have a clear descending channel. If this wanted to come back down into the 15s, I think it'll be an area that I try to play against strength. But I like their earnings report. They they announced the buyback program. They're looking to buy back shares, but there was some big selling, and they are a little bit higher on that stock-based compensation. So anytime I'm in that scenario, I just kind of got to give it some time. But this is a name that I'm looking to punch long, and try and find some lows that I can take advantage of. That's okay. Your cough is not that bad. Cough away, man. I appreciate that. I will always hold your word or something that you say into high regard, Drift. So if you say it's not okay, I'm still gonna try and mute my mic, but if I don't, I still do apologize. Ooh, BAC. I forgot to talk about BAC. We did try some shares on BAC. My very first reload. It wasn't for very many shares, but my very first reload did come in down near these 29 flats. We said we wanted 29 flats. We didn't get it right off the open, and then trading back down. Kind of similar with GM, where where GM gave that nice push right off the open. Well, BAC traded right back down in. Had it given up these lows, I mean, you guys can see where I really want to. I mean, a lot of our first initial orders came in off of this trend line. And a couple of them were off the trend line, of course. But if it does want to pull back into those 28s, that 28 level, I think is a no-brainer for me. Still very solid growth, even though we've had a little bit of a banking crisis on the year. They're still buying back shares. They're still increasing their dividend. We got a dividend increase from 22 to 24. Doesn't sound like much, but that's 1/11th. So, no, what is that? That's, yeah, 1/11th. My bad. My math was right. 1/11th is still a solid dividend growth. It's not over top of that 10%, but looking at a 9.1% dividend growth on top of buying back shares and growing your earnings and revenue. Looking at a year before, we're going from 88 gap to and 25, a little over 25 bill. We look back 4 quarters, go from 22.5 to 25 bill and 72 cents to 88 cents. Still getting very good EPS growth. Still buying back cheap shares, in my opinion. So that's what I like to see. Jeez, I'm dying over here. BTI, just kind of in a standstill state with BTI. I like these low 30s. Are they going to be able to hold up? I don't know. But we have a plan set in place. If it wants to give up and keep following this channel to the downside, 31 to 30. 50 is going to be an area. 30 flat, of course, is going to get played. And we've talked about this neckline here on 28. And this neckline's back from 2009. You have a left leg neckline built a weird right bottom, but then you have a false right leg that doesn't overtop this. Pulls back in, respects it very well. Okay, now we have the true right leg breaking over top of those 40s. You pump up. This is insinuating that one day we're going to back test the neckline. We look to the right. We had to wait patiently. We didn't buy it at this time, of course. But look at it. Had somebody identified this, they would have had to wait from 2011 all the ways to 2018, and you wouldn't have got the fill. You're like, oh, I'm waiting at 2018. You're sitting right here, and you're like, oh, just drop a little bit further and test that neckline. Just a little bit further and test that neckline. Catches a bid, you're probably like, oh my gosh, why didn't I buy it? Why? Why? And then, boom, COVID, test of the neckline, boom, right on the money. You had 1 day of trading to try it, and you would have tried it, and you would have went out of the money right away. You would have had the courage to say, hey, it back tested the neckline. We can give it all the ways to the lows, which is 2150. Do we get close to 2150? No. There should have been no panic at all. This ends up ripping up back up to the 40s, trade sideways, takes out the highs, and we have a high set here at 47s. where we've started this descending channel. What happens when we come back in to this area, I don't know, but it is going to be something that I try. Looking at GNS, still kind of just trading sideways a little bit, giving up. We're at the brink of, is this going to be a stair step that gives up down to these 125s? You can see it wicking into the area right now. That doesn't mean it's going to continue holding the area though. DFS kind of giving up the ghost a little bit, testing back down to the original gap up. You know, I've been as transparent with Discover Financial. I felt I didn't let my emotions get a hold of me too much, even after the gap up. Just because it gapped up, I said, "Hey, this isn't in the clear yet." I've already been very clear that I do not think this wick low from last Wednesday is the low. I do not. I think this ends up, you can already see it wicking towards our 21, which is sort of the gap down, the start of the gap down. But down here at these 90s, I am going to buy this gap more than likely. And if it wants to give up these lows, I'm buying great long-term shares. And, you know, maybe we give it a day or two to truly trade down. But this is a name that I am not scared to punch in against strength. So this down here doesn't phase me in the slightest. And I would expect probably on this dividend day, which is Wednesday, I'm expecting a gap down. How far of a gap down are we going to get? I don't know. I don't know. I have the news against me. I have the chart against me. But I believe I have the company on my side. So maybe the odds are stacked against me, but I'm going to play them anyways. Invex back up to those 40s. Doesn't show it right here, but 741 on the chart. Let's go to a 15 minute. You want to talk about a difference in volume. Look at from the last time we really got bullish right here. Just this whole sideways chop. You know, this was kind of a knife, but sideways chop. Look at that volume. Nothing. Now we're starting to get somewhere. This is what I've been waiting to kind of see. So to have the entry built over the last few days, and to be on the brink of maybe cutting it and to hold strong. Hopefully this is another forward all over again. If this is another forward all over again, we had a lot of fun playing that forward position. So early signs, but still trading inside of this channel. Invos. How about that? That's a nice uptrend hold. This is what I'm talking about. When you're getting these pullbacks, you get a nice gap up. If you just stay true to the trend line you have set, look at this hold. And now the volume is just starting to really pick up. Is it going to be something that gets to the top end of the channel? You have strength on your side. So you get this big gap up. You wait, pulls back in, tries to get down to the gap. It looks like it actually does fill that gap. On the money. How about that order? Order right off the gap, show some patience, and boom, getting paid out. It's too bad we don't have it, but it is a decent setup. Is it something that is going to be worth trying up to these highs? Maybe. Maybe. This is a pretty clean setup, I would say. I'm probably not going to try it, though. If I was going to try it, I would have already had this this uptrend set, and I would have had this neckline marked for the beginning of the day. We set a close right here. We trade down. As soon as it claims that neckline, puts it on the map. Here's your opportunity to buy deeper into that neckline on this pullback candle. As it turns green, boom. You see the buyers, the early signs of this volume picking up right here. This is 765K of volume. Now I know what you're saying. You're probably like, oh, well, it's only 13 cents. It's really not that much. But relative to what it was doing while I was trading sideways all of Friday, none of these candles ever even break 200K. So if I was looking for a golden entry, the golden entries came in off of one of these two candles. Probably the tail end of this candle, not the beginning. The beginning, yeah, you could say the low is the golden, but I wouldn't have tried it right here. I would have waited for a neckline break. I would have traded the pull back in, and as I see it start wicking into that area, that's where I'd want to try it, and you would have got paid out very nicely. So it's too bad we didn't put enough time looking at this, because the signs were there to maybe try it. And looking at where this neckline break is, if I just pull that further to the left, you can see this is sort of a flat bottom break. Boom, test, test. So as soon as you really truly claim that, uh, breaking over that neckline and the previous lows, the setup was definitely there. NVAX into these 740s, nice continuation play. We have the open of the next candle. Like I said, I want to see if the buyers are going to come into this green move. Well, we only had one pullback candle as of right now. Is it going to be a washout top where boom trades right back inside of this channel, or is it going to be something that holds? If it holds, we could be seeing a 762 break today. But I mean, if we don't, I think we've seen enough from this move that it would have to put in a large red engulfing candle and actually break down below this channel right here if we're going to get scared out of it. So I don't think we're going to get scared out of it. The other name that we were really looking at this morning was Vail. We have the trend line marked. You know, these previous lows, is this going to be something? Obviously not like Invos that is as volatile. But Vail down here, you can see we've told ourselves, hey, this is the last time we're adjusting this channel. Is this going to be able to hold? I think it's company-wise, I think they're fundamentally sound. They operate at a very high level. Their margins are pretty good. They're buying back shares. They pay out a very healthy dividend. This last dividend was a 34 cent. We have a small position in it. That doesn't mean that it's a golden position. But I do think that you're getting fair value down here. It's just strength isn't quite there. You're looking at your strength. I don't want a lot of these positions that I have to be have my strength against me. But I am interested in Vail for the long, and even if I had Vail bought on this positive break, this isn't a name that, okay, gave up the trend line, I'm out. No, this is probably a name that I'm holding until we get into some cleaner resistance where, I would start with the downtrend, which is sort of a wedge pattern. NVAX up to that 750, getting that continuation. So maybe I should go on to the title name and put NVAX in there, seeing that we do have it. But it's all right. It's all right. We're not getting thousands of people watching in. We got the loyal Drift tuning in, and he knows. Drift knows. That I care more about that than if I put NVAX into the title and we got another 10 people to come in and watch. Nah, I'd care more about Drift knowing, and I think Drift does know that we are playing this name, and we have been very patient with it. Devin did pull back. I would say you're probably going to have some sort of descending channel like this. So let's see if it can build a nice tight channel. We can maybe set some alerts off of these highs right here, right off 50 flat, and we can think about it from this area. Just marking those wick tops right there. We're at 50.02. Marking the body candles, you're at 49.99. So that is going to be an area that I am probably going to buy some more shares today. Just being honest. I appreciate thumbs up there, Drift. Drift, just because I say that doesn't mean I'm making it obligated for you to be here. You could go do something for a month and not tune in for a month, and when you come back, you're family to this chat, so you're welcome to do whatever you want to do. I just hope you're clear of that. There's nothing that you could do or say that's going to change my mind on that. Because, I mean, you've been the guy that's held down the fort. I appreciate that, Drift. That means a lot coming from you. But let's look at some losers on the day. Nikola, we're still holding this 150 on Nikola. I didn't even know that this was down so much today. I haven't even really looked at. But down at this 150, we are gonna have that order in for 150. I know people are gonna be like, dude, that's giving up the lows. But we made out very good on this name, over 100% on the move. So if it wants to come back in and test that same area, your strength just isn't quite there. But you go to a weekly chart, is this going to build that U shape on this weekly and then give me that true positive break? But you can see all this volume that's come in, very weak volume the last 2 weeks. And so I'm not surprised that it's pulled back in towards this previous high. But if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, wave 4 back test in the bottom of wave 1, this 150 level is going to be an area of interest where I'm looking for some wicks to wick down into that. And then catch a bid. My hard stop is probably going to be underneath some of these wick lows, so call it like a 120. So yes, I'm going to be giving it a little bit against me, and maybe that gives back a lot of the gains. But as of right now, we have stayed with this very small position where this was one of those names we actually had some decent size on. I wouldn't say it's extreme size, but yes, we made out pretty, and maybe we did cut a lot more of it in this initial move. And then kind of just watched the trade sideways, had some more outs up here that, we weren't cutting off too much size, but the outs were there. So down in this 150s, it is going to be an area of interest, just to respect the swing trade. But it is getting a negative break today. Anytime I'm getting a negative break, flirting in with support, the first thing that would go to my head is that, oh, are we going to get a flat bottom break? Well, you only have one test of these lows, but it gaps down towards that 150 and gets bought up real quick. So if those same buyers can come here that were here before, that's going to be of interest to me. But some other low movers today that we're probably not going to trade. I don't see any like fundamentally sound names on here as I'm scrolling through. Maybe WSM, which has been a strong name, testing the previous lows, holding strength. You have earnings coming up though, so pre-market on Wednesday. I wouldn't be surprised to see this gap up over top of these 145s on their earnings. Fundamentally sound company here. So anytime I see a fundamentally sound company down 3%, and it's also testing the previous highs, probably has some sort of strong uptrend. Not perfectly set, of course, but then you map out that uptrend and it has a ascending channel. I wouldn't be surprised to see this test up to the top end of the channel after the earnings. That doesn't mean go punch in for everything that you got. Reliable Rudy said this earnings report is trading at support and could easily. No. Honestly, I had a position in this and I lost faith in it. And I wish I hadn't, because I really like the financials on this company. The part that scared me was the retail space. That was it. But if this did give up this trend line, Housing and Act, it has really clean support. Oops, wrong thing. Has really clean support right here in these low hundreds. Maybe if it trades down here, maybe this is a buying window that we'd be looking for. But all in all, Warner Bros. Still a small position, but I'm not opposed to trying this trend line. We just missed the fill at 1250s on Friday by 4 cents, I believe it was. The low of the candle was 3 cents. Missed that fill by 3 cents. But I do think this has pretty decent support. Just mapping out this candle, you can pull that across and you can say, yes, this 1250 could have some support, especially dating in or adding in that, this is a solid channel, had a downtrend, broke the downtrend. Now maybe we need to test back down and hold this trend line before this catches a bid. But if this is early entries for a high break, this flat top gap, I think this is going to be one of those that it fills it. It might reject it originally, but I think you break that flat top gap, And this is one that you could see catch a little resistance here. If it's able to fight through everything, this was a clean flat bottom break where if you were mapping out some sort of trend line right there, I know it's a little bit sloppy, so maybe we can just go off of this like right here. I would say this was a trend line, so not only was it a flat bottom break here, you break trend line, and you really don't have much of a test up. You test up briefly, but this is where I would say you have some true resistance here at 22s. So if we're talking about it down here at 1250 for a potential 22 in the future, I'd say that's reasonable. GM still, I'm expecting it to be a green candle today, but the true test comes here in these middle 33s, and then if it does catch a bid, you have a nice red candle right here. If the same people that are looking to go short are here, they take some profits down in off this gap as we're approaching the trend line. Okay, are we going to see some reloads come in 35s? So that is something to be cautious of. Cautious. But I'm already anticipating that's going to get rejected. That'll allow me to, okay, when it's pulling back, are we going to set a higher low, or are we going to, break some levels, just, wash out some stops on some of these shorts? Some of the shorts, not all of them, potentially reloading. Okay, are we going to take out this low and actually hold these 32s? That is what I'd be looking to see there. Looking at Geo trying to catch a little of a bid. Is it going to be able to hold? You can see the chop fest. We have a couple positive breaks to the upside. If it can give me a true positive break, I'd say it's going to have to break to get over top of 750. Is it going to be able to hold this? Is it going to be able to break 750? I don't know. So maybe just a wait and see type of deal here. But I am interested. I already have my position kind of built here in these low sevens, so I'm not going to test it anymore. I kind of just wanted to pick a direction. Okay, are we going to go up? Or are we going to go down? Are we just going to trade sideways forever? I doubt that. So either the shorts or the longs are going to win on this thing. This is a nice range it's been trading in. But down here, if you were confident that it can hold this support, not a terrible ab. Devin, let's go see what that channel's looking like. It is catching a little bit of a bid. And you can see the volume sort of picking up. We have a minute left. Is it going to start wicking into this area? I could see it. We haven't quite got down to those 50 evens yet. Invex. Kind of discrediting this channel. We have a minute left. If it set a close right here, I would expect a few candles testing back up to these highs right here. So like a 744, a 742 hold. But setting a close, if it rejects these 50s, I would expect some buying pressure to come in here. There's not too many different ways that we can set this channel, and you can see the price truly pushing up to the top end. If this was some retracement for the entirety of the move, you can see right in around this 745 to 750. You have some false wicks to the top end, but I wouldn't be surprised. Look at how this 781 meets in right at these lows. Boom, 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 boom. Even on this first pullback, boom, test, breaks it down. We try the gap up over that. Look at where the gap happens. It gaps up to that 788. When it gives it up, boom, test, another false break. But when it really gives up the ghost, it puts that final test up to those 780s. Boom. There's a trend line hold. We break 750, gives it up, reject, reject, reject. And if we can get over top these 62s, I think it's going to be able to fight through that 780s. But maybe worth a trim if it gets there today. But that 702 meeting up at this, if we wanted to pull this up higher, you can see this actually maps out a little bit better right here. But, who knows? Maybe I'm just blowing smoke with all that stuff, all those retracements. But if this does pan out, I would want to take the top move to the bottom of the move. And maybe this is where you have some sort of descending channel like this. Maybe this is the true picture of it, and we actually see this break down and test towards this 650. Who knows? As of right now, catching a decent bid and looking at the last few days, kind of discrediting this channel that we've had set right here is what I would care more about. Not perfectly set. There's multiple different ways we've tried to set this. So I'm just going to clear out everything. And we will put these lines back in for this 742 and this 744. How does it act if it pulls back in there? But we do have the close of the candle, a nice close of the candle on nice volume. Once again, that has been the story of today. Look at since August 10th. Look at the light volume. A couple pops, but now, I mean, this is clear. That is clear and obvious of volume that is fluctuating to this name. So a great start to the swing, man. My day, I would be so upset right now if I just had a stop loss in at that. Let's say I said, okay, 6.6 or 6.99. If it gives it up, I'm out. Or maybe if I said, this is a nice support level. If it gives it up, boom, that's at 702. That's not giving 7 a chance to hold. It just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. So I'm very happy with my resilience on this play. We had position starts at 740. Where was that 740? It was right here. No, it was actually over here. Here's your 741 was the very first fill. Yeah, where was my fill? I can't even remember which candle it was. Was it here on the 741 and then we tried it again? No, that just doesn't ring a bell. Maybe right here, 740. No, it wasn't at the end of the day either. Man, that's gonna bother me. I hate when I can't remember the exact moment that I bought shares. But nonetheless, we did buy some here the following day off of 740. We bought some off of the support at 725. We bought some off at the bottom end of this channel. And then we also bought some right off the gap fill at 712. I know for a fact we bought this gap right here, somewhere in this candle. So really good resilience holding it out. I apologize for not remembering exactly how we played it. Man, that's going to bother me. I should be better at explaining that. But all in all, we do have a nice position on this name. And a 7 hold was beautiful today. And trading up at 750. I couldn't be more happy with how we've played this. Even though we had bad fills, now those fills are all in the money. So that's all I care about. Looking around, let's get a refresh on some of these top movers. PayPal is still going to continue being on watch. This was one that really held the strength at the end of the day yesterday. Kind of like how I did Ford, or not Ford, GM was holding this half. PayPal was trying to hold this 236. I'm not used to saying the 236. I normally don't play around with the 236 unless it was to the other way. Like if we were like this and we were trying this down here, we could say, okay, we can have outs at our first retracement, but not really the biggest fan of that. Invax trying to hold 750s. 10 minutes left in this candle. I would expect this candle to be red, trade back down, but if it is green, we are going to be flirting with these highs up here. BAC right down at this support level. Given the look of potential flat bottom break, you can see the strength on a negative break. Maybe it needs one more leg down before we try to test up towards this 21. Let's look at the top movers. TMBR. Given the we set this channel off of 2 candles. We haven't moved it yet. Look at all I'm gonna need to do here. Just that little tiny move. I needed 2 candles to make that original statement. Just a nice little parallel channel. Slight adjustment to that channel. But you can see why these big gap ups, a lot of times those initial candles will show you, had this not got a pump off the beginning of the day and traded down, left a wick, then gave the pump, and then this red candle held inside of that wick, different story. But it made a pump, it put a small wick to the downside, and then took out those lows on the following candle. I said, hey, you can probably look back at this in 2 to 3 hours. That's exactly what I said on How's Stream. When you get these descending channel looks, maybe your risk to reward off these 275s is good, but as soon as that gives up 275s, test down to your 21. Is that going to hold? You don't know. Maybe you just wick to the bottom end of this channel, and then you have to give a small, so you wick down towards the bottom end of this channel, and then you give one test up. You don't know if 75 is gonna reject this low that could potentially break out. And before you know it, your 21 gives up, and boom, you're putting wicks down towards 250. Maybe you catch a bid. Well, then you reject the 270 low, and then maybe you even get a channel break, and before you know it, you're trading right back down to our support level that we have marked. And maybe this needs to pull all the ways back into the gap up that happens at 170, I believe. 142. This could, all in all, come on into play right off this gap before you know it, and it would happen in a blink of an eye, snap of a finger. So this is why those gap ups, I just really don't play with them unless it's a more distinct level and maybe not as big of a gap up. So gapping up 100%. And I believe Hal on his stream said that it was a buyout deal. So as soon as that buyout deal is announced, it really shouldn't even trade based off of the company. It should trade more based off of the company that's buying them out. Which, I mean, you could go over to Activision. Activision is a great example. The buyout deal with Microsoft. From right here, it got very close to that buyout agreement deal. Let's go look at what Microsoft has done. Look at this. About 3 straight weeks of downtrend. Where's Microsoft? 3 straight weeks of downtrend. Now, tell me this. Was it Activision that was trading down? Or was it Microsoft that was trading down? Let me know. Let me know. You tell me. You get what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with buyout deals, in particular, that's not even something that I would like to trade anyways, even if it was a beautiful setup. Not something I'd want to trade unless there was news involved where there was a premium regarding the buyout deal. You look over at, where's Activision? Let's go back to Activision. Activision, there was compliances with, not compliance, there was there was an attempt to turn down the deal because they didn't want Microsoft being that big. When Activision was trading down here in the 70s, and the deal for it to go through clarifies that, hey, this is gonna go for 95 a share. Look at this premium that this traded at. Let's go to 95 a share. It didn't quite get there. That traded at a 28% premium. So if you got the conviction that this is gonna go through, 28%, boom, just like that. Just like that. This was one of the easiest, more conviction swing trades I've ever had. And we were actually long on Activision through this area. High margin, high moat, come out with the best games out there. I play them. When you can get me to spend money, now this doesn't add any conviction to it at all. When you can get me to spend money on something, I'm a tight ass. I am cheap. People call me Jewish. Sorry if that offends anyone. I do apologize. That I shouldn't have said that. But I am very tight with my money. When you can get me to spend money on it year after year after year on, whether you're talking about World of Warcraft, whether you're talking about every Call of Duty since existence, Lord, sign me up. And then you add in, let's just do this for the sake of the argument. I'm gonna pull over Activision over here. High moat. Consistency. Yes, some large increases here, but consistent business model. Margins, consistently growing margins, high margins, operates very well, profitable, cash flow. We go to the balance sheet. They have a ton of cash on the books. Long-term debt, their cash covers it 3 to 1. I mean that states that right there. You go to the cash flow, are we on an annual? Putting in 2 billion of cash flow every single year. We go back to that debt. Long-term debt, they cover their long-term debt, long-term liabilities in 2 years of cash flow. Yet high margin, high cash, operates well. Their cash flow covers their debt in under 2 years, a little over 2 years, you name it. Now, the cherry on top, let's go over to some ratios. Return on invested capital, they're driving that EPS on top of everything because they know how to manage their money. They get a high return on their capital. Return on equity has to do with their buybacks. The only thing that we didn't go over in this little breakdown is their shares outstanding. Okay, you got a little bit of share dilution. Okay, that's fine. I'm buying the margin. I'm buying a piece of this business. So that was even the catalyst when this was trading down here. The fact that I was lucky to get this news drop after I was building the position, sometimes that's part of your conviction of finding a great company. That's how I took it. And we ended up getting out of it. We took a great trade on it and we got back in on it. We got back in, sometime in February at the early of the year. We got back in, added to the position in May. I mean, that doesn't make me a genius. It's just being able to identify what a solid, fundamentally sound company is something that I hold a lot of regards to. And it's something I take a lot of pride in too. I want to find those differences from what people value something and to terms of what the business actually is. So that's why short-term trading. I mean, when you're looking over here, you're looking at internal problems with the company. You were looking at the harassment, stuff that was going on. If you were just looking at the news, you would have been like, dude, there's no way I would ever invest in this company. But a wise man once said, I always forget what this saying is. The gist of it is that you take a bad situation, there is opportunity in bad situations. It is so easy to get tunnel visioned into that negative energy, and it also changes your personality into being a more negative person. Where I like to take a bad situation, I evaluate the negatives, but when I move on, I'm looking for the positives. I'm looking to take the positives with me and move on. This was a great example of that. And just because it worked once doesn't mean it's going to work again, but I mean, to me, the conviction was there. Hilarious. I don't know what you said. I haven't looked at the chat in a while. I don't know what you're saying. Hilarious too. But let's get back. Let's get back on topic. You know me, Drift. I just get off topic so easily. And a lot of times it's when it's something that I'm trying to make a point and I'm struggling to find the words to make that point. So maybe that's what it was. But Invax, I didn't even see Invax. Invax up to those 7. Did it test up to those highs? Invax up 6.25% today, testing up towards the high. It got as high as 61s. What have we been saying? That breakout level of 62s. Well, now that I'm on that chart, we got 63s marked. Are we going to test up over top of that high? Geez, it's been so long. I'm not even logged into my portfolio. Give me a second. I think we are going to go take a piece off of this. We have the size is there. Even though it's a strong name, it looks really good getting the volume there on top of it. Moderna's pumping. You probably have some other pharma, COVID names that are also pumping along with it. But let's just go take a piece off of this and trim some of this size down that we have on the name. So let's see. Let's do some math here. 1/5. We're going to take 1/25 of this position off right here. 1/25. ring in the register. Boom, that should have gave us a 59 fill. And let's go see what fill we got. Waiting for it to load. We got a 759.11 fill. So first register rung for the week. Very proud of how I played this up to this moment. And now if it wants to pull back in, I wouldn't be surprised if it rejected these highs. I wouldn't be surprised if it shot through. Regardless of what it does, we'll take the information that it presents us and we will go from there. Looking at Devon. Devon, it took us, we put this channel in off of the third candle. No, maybe it was this fourth candle when we seen it give out the lows. But just looking at this, when you see that wick and then a lower high wick, you could have easily set this channel just like this. Just a slight adjustment right there, and boom. Is there any need to, okay, a nice green candle's coming in. It's easy to get a little excited and say, oh, a nice green candle's coming in. I really want to buy it. Let's buy it. No. Let it work itself out. We have our levels marked that we're going to be patient for. And if it comes into those levels on a leg down right here, we might wait a little bit, but we are probably going to play this level. And if it shoots down below that, it's fine. It's fine. There's nothing that we would have to panic about there. But a nice look on the name. Invax looks like it tapped those 62s. Let's go take a look at it. Yep, tap 62s. I'm going to go refill my coffee. And I will be right back. I'll stay on the headset though. Oh, you're okay, puppy. I don't know if you remember about the coffee talk last week, but I like my coffee brown. Not a light brown, not a black, not a dark brown, a brown. Just a little dab of milk, nothing too much. I don't want no, and if I had a little vanilla, I would add a little bit of vanilla, but then just a little dab of sugar, nothing too much. I don't like it super sweet. I don't like the $10 Starbucks coffee, a mocha frappy, whatever they call it these days. Dabbed with some whipped cream, you get some chocolate syrup and some caramel added on top of it, make it look real pretty, and then charge it $10. You know what that whole tin of coffee cost me? Cost me $8.50. $8.50 for that whole tin. It's lasted me about 3 months. Huh. $10 for a frappy. You gotta be shitting me. You gotta be shitting me, Drift. $10 for a frappy. Well, let's go see what Starbucks is doing. What's Starbucks ticker again? UX? Mocha frappy. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Or excuse me, I didn't mean to use that language. But I would say Starbucks giving a look for a flat bottom break. Let's see what it would do. Just marking those highs. Just instinctively, there is also a gap right there. So I'd say potential short for a flat bottom. Wait for it to pull into these levels up in these upper 90s. Reject of 100. Broke down 100. Looking like a short. Just got done paying the dividend. Earnings, really not the greatest. For the cost of $96, only putting up $1 of EPS. Let's look at the quarter before. You have some growth there. Estimated not too much growth, just flat earnings. I'd say potentially, if it really gave up the ghost, I'd say down here in these 60s. So not only do I hate the product, I would say the stock, it looks a little bit overvalued off first glance. Devon Energy. What happened to my descending channel that I just marked? Unbelievable. Let's just go re-put that puppy back in. We would really like to see this come down into this flat top where we are going to have some orders in. not the exact that we had set, but give or take. I did see Invax tap those highs right there. Just took a 125th fill. Uh, what happens from here? I would expect possibly a retest of this little shoulder that it put in right here. But if it wanted to stay bullish, if it did stay bullish, I want to see somebody get in short right there and then get stopped out and really see this start going. But we're flirting with this neckline break. Maybe it needs to pull back a little bit, but if we get a nice green candle through that neckline break, I'm expecting a nice pump. Mr. Drift, I see you got that Invax push. It wasn't an easy one, Hal. And I'm gonna be honest with you, we were close to putting a stop in on this little false wick of 7, but we didn't see a need to until this sort of we had a channel set, something like this. Not perfectly set, of course, right there. But had we seen some more red engulfing, we would have been put in a very tough spot. And I think the best fill that I have is off this gap, where we have a couple fills at 40s, we have a fill at 25s, and also in the 30s somewhere, somewhere in here, just playing the buyers in the previous. I think it was a 33. So we seen the open, we seen it wick down, we seen it push up. We tried buying sort of this neckline here at these 40s again, which we'd already had fills there, and then we tried this top. Well, then we had something set like this where we're like, okay, let's try these upper teens, and then let's try the gap fill. And even in this moment, I mean, you can ask Drift, or you can go back to the live stream on Friday. It was like, dude, if it gives up these lows right here, which if we just mark these lows, I might have to cut this, and I really didn't want to. But now, rejecting this area like I'd expected, we got 759 filled. Is it going to trade back down and then take out the highs? I don't know, but I do like the look of it breaking this downtrend. But all in all, I don't want all that messing up anything. I'm just going to mark the body candle highs and the wick tops right here. So 744, 741 is what I'm looking to hold. Mr. Howell, I know you got something you'd want me to take a look at. I know I always go into your streams, interrupt what you're trying to do, and you always take the time. Hal, I'll say one thing now that you're listening to me. When I talk about something and you're in the middle, or I bring up a ticker and you're in the middle of talking about something, you don't gotta go into so much detail. I appreciate it. That's why I always have love for you. You always, you care about the viewers of your stream. But for me in particular, when I bring something up, you don't gotta go into as much detail as possible when you're in the middle of something. If I bring it up in the pre-market, okay, that's one thing. But I brought up the first ticker like 2 minutes before the market opened, and you spent a whole minute and a half looking at the Devon, and I was like, "How? The market's gonna open. Focus up." I was just kind of joking around, of course. Uh, on the DSL as the monthly dividend payout, DSL, DSL. Have we talked about DSL? Double line income. It's not on my watch list. I don't think we've talked about it then. DSL. Well, I'd say you're getting a negative break, would be the first thing I'd say. I'd have to ask the question, for this flat top break, you can see it kind of false wick. You got the bull flag continuation. This is a nut up or shut up candle coming in. You have to make the decision here. Hey, we got 1, 2, 3 on third candle. You get that gap up, and you also have buyers here off of this gap. This puts in a nut up or shut up candle. Well, then you get that gap up, you get a little continuation. Why are there no buyers here off the 12? That'd be the one thing I have to ask. Well, now you got the dividend paid out and you got a negative break. That would be a little bit concerning for me. So I would say also you don't get a respect on that flat top break when you don't, not a perfectly set channel, but on a flat top break, I'd want to see a little bit more of a push to sort of justify the ascending channel. So this would also lead me to think that, hey, if we do come back down to this trend line, is this trend line going to hold? Because it's already showing you, hey, there's a clear influx of selling pressure or shorting pressure here. What's the reason? So a couple negatives, but I will say some positives is that you do still have some really solid support here at this 1170, and you also have a gap fill right there. So this would be put in a pile of just, wait for more information, for me at least. I don't know what your personal ties are to it. I haven't looked at any financials. The dividend, 11 cents, so looking at about a 4% dividend. Do they pay this monthly? That's July. That's August. So anytime I see these monthly dividends, that would make it a 12% dividend if my math is correct. So don't trust it just yet. But let's go pull this up. DSL it was. DSL. It's not even pulling up on my DSL. Was that what it was called? Huh. What's the company called? It's called Double Line Income Solutions. Double Line in Double Line. Looks like an ETF. Yes, monthly. I'm not able to find. Maybe you can, if you can see these, you can let me know which one it is up here, because there's all sorts of different ETFs for this. And maybe you can let me know which one it is that you'd want me to take a look at. My viewers trump any possible trades. How sometimes there's got to be a point where when you're focused up, you can always come back to it, and you know it's me too. You know you're not gonna hurt my feelings. But I've held it here long enough. If you can let me know which one of these you're looking at, I'm gonna go quickly look back. NVAX is getting ready to test up for a breakout here. So I am going to do, and look at this daily. I hadn't even looked back at the daily yet, but look at this U that we're getting ready to break. I would say you have some clear resistance here though. That should be respected up to these 80s. Just marking these wick lows right here. I'd say you got to be able to break through that and there's a 766. So getting a true break and a nice tight ascending channel right here. Not perfectly set by any means, but you can see the tight ascending channel. So when it does break this, I would expect some sort of U to start being formed. And here's 770. This is what I really wanted to see as soon as we're breaking this neckline, to put a nice green candle in. Looking over to the left of the chart, let's mark some levels. We will mark those lows, and we would like to see what type of retracement we're looking at right here. So right into the 618, that 702 is meeting up right at these highs. So maybe right in front of that at 75s, and then also a little bit of a trim off that 702. My previous lows meeting up at my 786, so we're also looking at 790s. I think we're going to stay true to the 125th cuts. All in all, how personally, I don't know anything about them, but that high dividend rate on a monthly income ETF, I have a thesis, and I'm going to go the JEPI. I'm going to go the JEPI for this. JEPI. People love this ETF because it pays a high monthly dividend every single month. There is going to be a time when you are going to see a shoom. I would not be surprised to see JEPI ETF trading underneath of these lows, and you see it just gap down from like 54s all the ways down to like 40, and then before you know it, it's down here in the 34. To me, I would not hold much regard to a long-term ETF. Yes, financials are terrible, and I think there's a Ponzi scheme personally with this ETF. There's something that does not add up. And for it to not be as volatile as it is with that type of dividend, there is something that does not add up with this. And we're just going to go look at the dividend. That payout ratio, 250%. Uh, the dividend growth, hoax. Look at the decline. Consistent decline in this dividend. These monthly dividends that pay a high yield, there is something bad that is brewing with some of these people, and some people just dump everything they got. They say, "Oh, it's the ETF. Let's go look at the holdings." Actually, the holdings are weighted properly with that. I had somebody ask me about this, and the weightings and the names. These are all good names. Adobe, Amazon, Mastercard. Mastercard, I think just trades a little rich, but that is a great name. Uh, these names are great. They're great names. They're weighted properly, but the payout ratio, it doesn't add up. There's something that doesn't add up with them. Maybe if the dividend was instead of 29 cents, instead of 41, instead of 57s, if these were like 10 to 12, okay, maybe there's something there because the holdings, I will say, are reasonable. With DSL, has a consistent return to 20. Uh, I would just have to see more on the dividend. Oh, did you say G? Oh, DSL. At GSL, I haven't looked at this name in a while. But getting ready to pay that 37-cent dividend, $2 of EPS easily covers it. This is one that I would say, some of these shippers are really putting up good quarters. Are they going to be able to sustain those quarters? That's kind of in the standstill I am with airlines. Looking over at DAL, doesn't pay a quarterly dividend, just a small dividend right here. Uh, but this support level on DAL, are these earning something that they're going to be able to put? If you told me right now, hey, these airlines are going to consistently put up these high EPS numbers. I mean, 284 gap is maybe a little extreme, but 236, if they continue putting up $2 of EPS every quarter, map that out over 4 quarters, that's $8 a EPS a year. Pays itself off in 5 years. If I can find investments that are paying themselves off with EPS in 5 years, sign me up. And that's kind of the catalyst I got with GM. Buying the GM. I just feel this is a reasonable support level. Uh, it looks like weak. It looks like it's gonna show some continuation to the downside. But if they can keep putting up these high EPS numbers, that's all I want them to do. I don't care what the price movement does until there's something that fundamentally changes with how their earnings are playing out. Uh, we're gonna stick with it. PBR are some oil plays with dividends. Yes, PBR is a personal holding of mine. Uh, Getting ready to pay its dividend, uh, significantly decreasing. Uh, what the heck happened to my? There we go. PBR. PBR. I like oil. I think oil, and the catalyst that I have is when you look at the Nasdaq, you can see a clear trend change. You get a lower high, you take out the bottoms, and you're rejecting your levels all the way to the downside. You have a tight channel to the downside right here. Clear trend change, in my opinion. You got a negative break. The one thing that is going for the Nasdaq is that when you look at your weekly is still very strong. Did it need a pullback? Yes. Even if it pulled down to these 13.2s, I think you have really good support right here. You probably also have some sort of trend line that is holding, and that is potentially an ascending channel. If you were somebody that believed that this tech, and my bad. I gotta go over and take a piece off this NVAX. This NVAX is absolutely ripping. So let's go ring the register on this. My bad. I don't mean to stop what I'm saying. And we'll go back to the original point. So we're gonna take 1/25th off of the position right there. So this will be our second print on the name, and that should have gave us a 79 fill right there. Let's go back to those levels. I would say this is some resistance built up here. into these 87s and looking at it from the retracement view. This is at 702, so taking a trim right off that 702 was part of the plan, and I think we'll go off of 785s and 788. So we're gonna get those orders off right now. Invex. Let's take this 25th off here at 785s. Let's get that order in, and then we will also go and get that 88 order in, and then after that we might have one respective 8 just because we got these body candles up here. $7.88. But then after that, we're holding for a higher move. We think that once we get over this previous low, you know, maybe we'll address some stuff up at 9, but we're gonna let this one really start going. Where if this is your retracement, you can see that just without even mapping out 881 for a 786. Those are your wick highs meeting in with that. You know, if we pull this up a little bit higher, that's your 618, your full retracement. I'd say your 702 meeting up with these highs is something, and then 950s. And then after 950s, we're going to be looking for a flat top break. There's your 1010. That's the flat top that's been building. If we can get that breakout, maybe we can hold a piece of this for a move up to the dream move. I'd say 1731, but just this flat bottom right here, meeting up at 16. So flat bottom break, boom, no test back up to that. So if this wants to give a test up to this range, that is where we want to hold a piece for. I seen Invex was at 84s right there. Did it tap those 85s? Hold on. Let's see if we got that fill right there. 84s is that high right there. So let's see if that can keep pushing higher. In terms of stocks for the day, mixed bag. Now obviously Invex and Neo are the only true movers. Baba kind of holding flat. But back to my crude oil is extremely bullish. I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if it pulled back into these mid 70s, but where the clear trend changed on the Nasdaq, you see a clear trend change on oil, where you break this downtrend with a nice bull flag off of your positive break. So your positive break comes in right here, consolidation, and you take out this neckline at the same time. This was a beautiful neckline break and beautiful neckline hold. Well, then you reject the downtrend. All we did was retest the previous highs from the initial breakout. Boom, right in, test with a higher low, and then you break it. That is your trend change. So if this wants to pull back in to these mid 70s, and what I would say is looking at your weekly chart, you can see here's your pull for a weekly. Here's your first red candle on a weekly. I'd expect a red candle on this week and a red candle on the next week, where if that meets in off of this wick high, just marking that wick high, the following week, if it starts giving you that curl, all it would take is for a break of this high, and we already have it marked. This is our next extension point that we're looking for, is these upper 90s. And this has a better true look because it's a clean top and it's a clean bottom. Just mapping out this retracement right here, you can see the upper 80s and your half meeting up at the top end of that range. You know, maybe it needs to be pulled down just a little bit more. But your breakout, your first initial bull flag breakout is going to come for that 382. If you get over that 382, that's where you're going to see that slow churn up to that half. And if it doesn't pull back from there, you know, your 702 up here at 105, I would not be surprised. You have some wick lows meeting in right here, so I'd expect some resistance if we pull this over further. You can see that was a top, hold, 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 breakdown, reject, 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 building the U shape where that's that next area that we could see a pop. So if we're foreshadowing out a month from now for this U shape to build, and for oil up at 93, these earnings on oil is going to be very interesting. Don't know if we talked about EC either, another monster oil play. Hal, I'm going to be honest with you. My oil positions are built. I'm not looking to buy oil right now. Devon is the exception because I like the earnings report. And a lot of these oil plays, I can scroll through a few of them. A lot of them are already here testing these lows. A lot of them are already testing this gap fill right there, where if I go to a daily, I don't even need to see it to know that's there. Uh, I do need to see it to know that's there. But a lot of oil, they're already testing these lows. They're already testing these highs. Where my goal is to get that entry. Where if Devon, if I like the earnings report and you're holding this sort of trend line right here, uh, I think that there is a catalyst for some relief rally. Oh my God, NVAX up to 790. I didn't even see that. So we rang the register twice there. We got two more fills on the name. Absolute pump. Absolute pump. Let's just go right off of that 8 flat. This is going to be my last order here for NVAX. Let's take off another 125th right off of, we'll go 799 right in front of it. And that's going to be my last print on this name today if it fills. Now, if it does fill and pulls back in, great. If it fills and keeps ripping, great. I don't care. But that is how we're going to be playing that. But back to, we'll just scroll through until we see some oil plays. Vital Energy. Man, oh boy. Did we ever have size on this puppy. Did we ever have size on this puppy down here somewhere? Just playing the support level. And for whatever reason, we ended up cutting it. I don't even remember where we cut it, but we had size on this name. Just looking at 450 EPS. If you're talking about putting this type of EPS up, I mean, look at these EPS numbers. Just monstrous numbers. And for whatever reason, we cut it. Whether we said it was a downtrend, but this is what I'm talking about. A lot of these oil plays, you map out these lows and this gap. A lot of oil is already there, where Devon is still trading down here. Marps is an exception. It's not really those true value oil play, in my opinion. Hussa is an exception. It's not really a true value oil play. And what I mean by that is still negative. I'd rather just stick with these oil companies that are printing the money. They have high margins. They're operating at 20 to 40%. Not interested. I think INDO kind of falls into that boat. But this is what I'm talking about. The Southwest Energy right here. You see them already testing these lows. You see them already testing these gaps up here. Let's keep scrolling through some more names until we see a few more. Quartz, MPWR, these are also, this one's taking out the highs. MPWR already made a nice pump. Sting making that pump, already testing these lows. Where's some other oil names? We got a ton of oil names on here. Nog, how about that? Taking out the highs. I mean, a lot of these oil plays have already just ripped. PR, we still hold a PR average of 11. So I mean, not the most. I know Next is another big oil ripper that we've had. No, Fang, boom, already testing over top of those highs. I mean, you get the point. I can go over each one of these oil plays, but to look over at Devon, we thought the earnings report was good. Put in $1.18 EPS over, you map that out over the course of, if they put up $4 EPS, looking at 10 years, so a little bit less compared to some oil plays. But I'm expecting with oil to be up, some of these earnings are going to be monster beats. I would expect that, if Devon were to put up over $1.50 EPS, maybe even more, up towards that $2 EPS when, we look back to when oil was really ripping, there's $2 EPS. $1.60, that's when oil was starting to come on down. Well, there's $2.50. There's $1.88. It's like, I think there's a clear value difference, and if I think oil can potentially run up to that 100 range, I think some of these names they're just too good to be true as of right now. But the moral of the story, a lot of oil is already testing these lows, testing these tops, and Devon is a fundamentally sound oil company that I would like to own. So that's the catalyst. Oh boy, you got a lot here. I don't know if we talked about EC, but yeah, you're right. I should go over and look at EC. Uh, Ecotriol. And this is, if it is an oil play, like I said, a lot of oil is already testing these lows and already filling this gap. So it's like, if I was gonna buy this, I'd just go buy MRO. I would just go buy Marathon Oil if I was gonna do this, testing the lows, filling the gaps. That's personal opinion, or I would just go buy an oil fund. I'd just go buy XLE, which has a very similar oil chart. I would just go buy this oil fund where I get a broad diversification of 25 great oil companies. That's personal opinion. Obviously, EC could keep ripping for all I know. It very well could, but looking at the earnings, 42 cents for an $11 company. Yeah, I'd say if they keep putting up those numbers, they're projected 51 cents. The quarter before they put up 46 or 64. Quarter before 70. Quarter before $1. I mean, that's clear value. So if this is one that you have conviction on for your personal reasons, I'd say you're probably going to do pretty good on it, even though buying it a little bit higher, that doesn't mean that it can't keep ripping higher. We're looking over here. I'd say actually this gap fill up to 13 looks pretty reasonable. I'm looking for undervalued stocks as well. Yes, that is the goal in building long-term positions. Find the undervalued ones. But I would say solar. If you were looking for some undervalued, solar is getting close to being that undervalued territory. A lot of solar has been getting beaten down. Solar is going to be that next area that I'm probably going to transition to. Personal opinion, and I think that financial sector is as well, and that payment solution sector as well. PayPal, we have a 66 something average on PayPal. We're not worried about it in the slightest. We have our levels marked out where we want to buy PayPal, and we have good till cancel orders at 56 flat and 55.50. And if it pulls into this range, PayPal is going to get hammered. NVAX continuing to catch a bid, 794s. Are we going to get this 799 print? Time will tell. But Enphase in these 120s, I don't think you can go wrong. Enphase is a name. It's kind of giving me that feel. And now they're not similar, of course. But I know you remember me talking about CrowdStrike. That's in that software business, tech business, the AI. But had a nice descending channel. We still hold our 97 average on CrowdStrike, and there's no chance I'm selling this. It's once I get the entry on a company that I love, that company that I have that conviction for. You know, Even if this pulled back down into like 125s, I'd probably just think about buying more. But looking at the last earnings report, you're looking at some year-over-year numbers. You're looking at 480 to 690. Looking at that 50% growth, we're looking at the next quarter of 725 from 535. I'm looking for this to keep compounding over and over and over and over again. And if for some reason I would be lucky enough to get it down here off this neckline, so help me God. Somebody keep me away from the buy button because I'm going to just hammer it. Boom, 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 boom. Buy, 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 buy. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But that's what I'm hoping happens with Discover Financial, which down 2% today. We talked about buying this gap off of 90s. I might give it a day. They're getting ready to pay their dividend. I don't like playing around with stuff too much right into that dividend. But down here in these low 90s, 90 is a monster level. And I would say if it wants to break down those 90s, we're going to be buyers here at these low 80s. But I mean, just looking at projected 320s, consistently putting up over 350, 350, over 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 350. 260. We got to go all the ways back to January of 21 before the last time they didn't put 350. They put 350 consistently going forward. maybe these couple quarters leading up, which is partially a part of this move to the downside. They work through that in a year, maybe 2 years. They get that buyback program reinstated, looking to buy 20 to 25% of their shares outstanding over the course of a year and a half. I think these are very well valued shares. I got KMI for solar energy and natural gas. KMI, I feel I've looked at this before. Kinder Morgan, it's not on the watch. Let's go take a look at KMI. KMI. Large decrease, so I'm not surprised they're probably built into that oil. Buying back some shares, that is good, consistent buyback of shares the last 6 quarters. High margin, operates well, I like what I'm seeing. Balance sheet, got a $500 million in the bank, very high debt. So this kind of would lead me into some oil plays are very high in debt, so they're gonna get hurt a little bit on the interest rates, but that's where the high margin, high operating efficiency comes in to kind of cancel that out a little bit. Looking at the cash flow, putting in are we on a quarterly? Putting in $1 billion of cash flow a year or a quarter, so $4 billion a year. Looking at paying off its long-term debt. So even though it's got high debt, looking at paying off that debt over the course of 7 to 9, 7 to 10 years, pretty good. Looking at that return on capital. All right, they're getting a return. They're getting a return on equity. Part that would scare me is that payout ratio. I'd just be careful playing with dividends that are around that payout ratio. That puts you at risk uh, of dividend cuts. That puts you at and that is not a good news drop that you want. Dividend cuts are not what you want to see. But if this is tied to oil, natural gas pipelines, don't see anything with oil. Don't see anything with that solar energy as well, but you see the nice increase of revenue. So revenue with increased earnings, maybe that dividend is able to hold. But I'd like them to cut that dividend down actually, and focus more on buying back shares. That if I was in a management position for this company, I would say, hey, we got to cut down this dividend. Our stock's beaten down. We look at the max. Stock's beaten down. We're growing our revenues. We're growing our profits. Let's cut this dividend. Not cut it entirely, but cut it down some and focus more on buying back cheap shares. So to me, I would say that is something that I would knock on the company is that they would prosper. Their stock price would prosper a lot better over the course of the long term if they cut this dividend down and focus more on buying back shares. So that's the one knock that I would have with the company. Well, a couple knocks, but then I mean the one negative ties in with the other, where I think that payout ratio is a little bit high. Where you cut that dividend, that helps your payout, helps you reinvest some of that capital back into the business instead of, and also would benefit the shareholders a lot better. My personal opinion. What do I know? I'm just a guy sitting in the basement. That's what I would say about it. And NVAX giving me a $7.99 print. Hoop 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 hoop. I need to get a doorbell or something to ring. Ring the Reggie. That's a $7.99 print. It looks like it did tap those 8s. 801 high. And those are all the cuts that we were having on NVAX today. Absolute pump on NVAX. That is what we needed. Yes, sir. A great start to the week with this name. So, whether it wants to keep ripping, whether it needs to pull back in, I really don't care. I'll be a shareholder as long as they don't cut the dividend. I will be a shareholder of the company when they cut the dividend down and focus more on buying back shares. I'll be the opposite of Hal. No, I'm just kidding, Hal. There's definitely worse investments, a lot worse investments than that. Just because there is some negatives, a lot of companies have negatives. Discover Financial, one of my favorite companies to watch right now has a lot of negatives. But there is one thing that I would want to also see. Go over that cash flow statement. Looks like they have no stock-based compensation unless they just don't disclose it. But I would want to keep an eye on that with some of the long-term companies there. I had somebody asking me about Snapchat. Snapchat, absolutely disgusting financials. Absolutely gross. For a company that's not even bringing in profit yet, they operate at, I believe it's negative 38%. That was close. Pretty on spot there off the top of my head. I mean, there's only one thing that you need to see. Over 300 mil in stock-based compensation. That is absolute disgusting. I would just go short Snap. Just wait like 5 years. You'll be alright. Just go short it. Garbage. That is absolutely garbage. Up here at 13s. God, that's disgusting. Negative 24. Projected negative 24. They're never going to get out of the gutter. When you see companies that are just focused on themselves, they give no care to their investors at all. Continuing to dilute shares, continuing to dump the stock. Disgusting. Disgust me. Invex rejecting those 8s. That's fine. Devon Energy. Let's go take a look at that channel. Flirting with it. Continuing to flirt with it. It's trying to give a hold. I can't adjust this channel much more. What's another reason why I'm trading Devon? What'd they do? They cut that dividend. 72 cents. 49 cents. What are they doing? They're focusing more on buying back shares. They're helping that payout ratio. 72 cents, that payout ratio is a little unsustainable. 89 cents. So they cut their dividend twice. They cut it 3 times. I do remember that. Cut it 4 times. 155. They cut it. They cut it. They cut it. They cut it. 49 cents. Are they going to continue cutting it? You're looking at a payout ratio of about 35%, but what are they doing now? They're focusing more on buying back shares. I tip my hat. That is a great play by the management of this company. Absolutely fantastic. Beautiful. Beautiful. That alone would give me the confidence of saying, hey, this is a reasonable company that I'm confident punching long in, even if it breaks it down. Even if it breaks down this trend line. Okay, let's come back down into these 40s. We got a gap fill here at 38. Sign me up. Sign me up. Tip my hat. Very well done by the management of the company there. Very well done. But still looking at oil, I am expecting this weekly candle to be red, and the next one potentially red as well. So down in those upper 70s, maybe Devon can show some weakness and get back into those 40s. That is something that I would very much appreciate. Looking across some other companies, this Warner Bros. Coming into this 1250 is of interest. Looks like a knife, but the catalyst showing me that, hey, we can break that downtrend right here. Boom. Now let's just see it hold this uptrend, where the wick low of the day is 1250. And I didn't have a good till cancel order from Friday. So let's just go over. Do I want to risk this hammer candle catching a bid, but a nice bid caught off those 1250s. Let's just go ahead and mark it in for a few shares. I know the chart probably doesn't look the greatest, but I am not gonna sit here and if it were to pump up and say, man, why didn't I have that good till cancel order off of that? But we are gonna put in. Oh my God, I almost bought way too many shares. Jesus. Let's market order for a few shares in right here, and let's market order for a few more if it does tap those 1250s. Just a small fill here. off of these 1250s, and we will give this trend line a chance. So showed very good patience on this name, sized accordingly on this downside pressure. But we think that this trend line could be a potential catalyst for running for this gap. If it can build this U shape, hold this trend line, get this move up to 16s, probably show some resistance, pull back in if necessary. But if we're able to fill this flat top, I think we're going to see 20s print. Personal opinion. NVAX catching a bid. Yes, sir. Switch over to the 15-minute chart. Nice bid. Nice bid on NVAX. Hell yes. So my next area that I'm really looking to trim, you probably have, you're over top of those 8s. You probably have some sort of retracement built in right here, moving across. That 702 is at 825s. Maybe we can think about it if it really just pumps up there real fast. I'm expecting some sort of pullback eventually in on this name. But if it can set a daily candle close with this nice green engulfing candle, I'm expecting continuation, even if it needs to pull back into those 7s. But a very nice move here on NVAX. Very happy with the move. Excuse me. GM. Right back around our fill for the day. But I will say probably getting close to testing this trend line for the short term, of course. We already bought it once today. We're probably not going to try it again, but you do have neckline support that it wicked into at these 33s. But we got the fills that we want. We got 2 fills on the name. I'm just going to wait for those 3250s for my next fill. 3250 is going to be my next fill, and then anything under 32 I believe is really good. Warner Bros. Did it give me that fill off 1250s there? Let's go take a look. Looks like we did. We did get filled off those 1250s. Let's just go make sure that there's not a huge order there locking those shares. We do not have a fill. No fill on those 1250s. Devin finally given that breakdown. This was the last time we were going to adjust that. But now looking like 50s is going to come into play. So going to show some patience there. TMBR, we had a sort of descending channel break, now just trading flat. I'd say risk reward, yeah, it's a buyout name though, so I'm not really interested in trying that. I'm sure Hal has some stuff that he said. Now you're seeing the gap fill potentials. What do you, hold on, I gotta go and take a look. What was the last thing you said? I don't know if we talked about MARPS, HUSA, range, too big. I want to see some companies. I'm just focused more on fundamentally sound companies. Neither of those companies are fundamentally sound in my opinion. Yeah, I'm focusing on ones that haven't ripped and not super extended. You know, if it's a good company, I don't believe that you can overpay for it. In the long run, if it's meant to be, they will be good shares bought. To the upside, I'm looking for undervalued stocks as well. Yes, you said that now. Seeing the gap fill potentials. I got KMI. Okay, I tried natural gas, solar. I'm talking about more. KMI looks like more related to that natural gas. I'm looking for true solar plays where Enphase is actually technology based. And maybe you can look at a First Solar, but I've put enough time into Enphase looking at the company itself, listening to the CEO talk, looking at the share buyback announced, and just looking at the chart. And I am, with the time that I put into this company, I am willing to buy this support level. Does this support level give up? Maybe it does. Maybe it gets underneath 100. But that is part of my plan of sizing accordingly in a company that in my opinion, I think I have high conviction on. My cost average in the 160s might not show that, but we haven't had one average in since it has gapped down. A lot of people, when they have high conviction on something, they get a gap down and it keeps trading down. They don't have a process of how they go about averaging into the company. Where for me, that process is your strength. Your strength is weak. You gap down through a trend line. The trend line tries to hold, it can't. Just giving it that time to breathe, where eventually that strength is going to come in. Uh, you can see the strength sloping up, even though the stock has been dumping down. When that strength comes into play, whether I have to buy it higher, whether I get to buy it lower, it really doesn't matter to me. But that is going to be a long-term play that I'm looking for. I wouldn't give Snapchat a buy off zero. Maybe a buy off zero. But they're going to have share splits, and it probably won't go to zero until the company goes out of business. I don't know. Warner Bros. God, did it give me those 50s? Those rats. It doesn't look like I'm going to get those 50s. That is unfortunate. No fill off those 50s. Highway robbery, if I've ever seen it. Another name that we haven't talked about too much is Disney. We've already respected these 85s enough. Given the look of a flat bottom break, if it's able to hold, it's able to hold. If it breaks down, maybe one last fill at 84 gap right there. But after that, I think we're going to be waiting for 78, I believe it is. You got 81 gap there, which was filled. We go over, it was filled. So I'm not going to be trying that. I believe it's 71s, not 78s. But it does have a nice support level off of this 77s, which also meets into the previous high. So maybe when the time comes, we'll think about it. But off of this gap right here at 71, 71.70s, we are going to be on the bid. You can hold me true to that word unless something fundamentally comes out on the business that has changed. You can count on me being on the bid there. Vail. Vail is an interesting level right here. Is it going to be able to hold? Just waiting on strength to give me a little bit more time to decide. But let's see. Let's refresh our top movers for the day and see if we can find anything. Where is GNS? Did they fall off the cliff? They sure did. It retraced very close down to that gap. Phil, let's go take a look. Has a descending channel. Washout tops. You see that wick top coming right there? You watch out. You don't know who's getting short right there. You don't know what type of selling pressure that is. As soon as this low gives out, start the trigger, enforcing this descending channel. Didn't quite fill the gap, but got very close. Docs. Man, Docs. This was one that we were getting so close. So close to trying. Just not quite there yet. Strength isn't there. Held us away from it. Hopefully we get an opportunity where this takes out the lows one more time. Giving a nice scroll through the watch here. Excuse me. ZI. We're trying to keep this one on watch, but this is a knife that we may think about trying. Strength, even though the stock price has been dropping, we like the earnings report. We like the talks of buybacks. Only thing that I'm scared with is the big selling pressure from insiders leading into the earnings report. I think it's undervalued at current price if you're looking at a few years down the road. Just looking at their next quarter, 310 from 287, you're still getting that growth, just not as much growth as what they were. So time just needs to let it breathe, and when the time comes, the time will come. But in terms of Invax is just ripping. Do I go get a piece off of this? It's right into that 702. God, that makes me very, very scared. Let's go get a piece off. I mean, how many consecutive green candles come in. Let's just go get a piece off. We have 1/5 of the position taken off. Let's take off another. We didn't get those true 25s. Let's give it a little bit of chance. If it falls below these 820s, we will, and it's taking that size off. I'm getting ready to take this trim. Let's just take this trim right here. Didn't truly get those 25s, but we'll take that 1/25th of profit right there. And just like that, let's see where our fill came in. I'm glad I looked back over to that, because that looks like it is potentially that wick high. Anytime I see that 702 coming on in, it is possible that that is the wick high for today. So 819s was the fill. 819 fill, and just like that, right back in the 09s. So ring the register, cha-ching. Not bad. Warner Bros. I still have not gotten that fill on Warner Bros. We're gonna respect that 1250, whether it works out or whether it doesn't. We think that the chart setup is there for a. We haven't moved. I mean, you can go back to any of my streams when I talk about Warner Bros. We have not moved this uptrend, and for it to finally put some contact on that uptrend, we got one fill. We're gonna try and get another 1250 fill. It's wicked into it twice. Let's see if it can hold that price. BGLC, light volume on the pullback, given a nice move. It has wicks, gives that stair step, and was able to fight back over those lows. A nice hold of one, but very light volume. I don't know if it ended up taking out these highs. This is a very, very nice setup, in my opinion. Could be worth trading. But I would want to have that entry off of that one, the reclaim of one right there. But that's right into those wick lows. More than likely, those wicks into this previous high right here would have been great fills. Great fills. I don't know if I would have had the audacity to try it at the time. Only a small pop in volume right here for a dollar name. That liquidity really isn't that much. Let's look at the top volume movers today. I'm sure Hal has said something since then. Never mind on what you think about TMBR. I'm not a fan of buyout deals. And I would use Activision as a personal example. Once they start trading in line with the company, I'd have to go look at the chart of the company that bought them out. So I would say I'm not interested in it, even though it's just trading sideways. No range on this. You could get that nice green engulfing candle to the upside, but I'll just go and do the comparison of Activision. Once you get to that price of agreed upon price, and I haven't looked into what the agreed upon price is for the company, but we'll use Activision in the $94 a share level. It got as high as $93.60. Now, over the last 3-4 weeks, straight downtrend. We go look at Microsoft, same chart. So once it gets in line trading with it, it doesn't really matter what the stock does. It matters more about the company that bought them out. So I'm really not interested in TMBR. And even if the buyout deal wasn't the catalyst, I'm not a fan of this large gap up. Because I would want to understand, I'd want to have the entry before that, which is very difficult to do. But the entry before that with the gap up of 100% would be playing the support level and looking at your initial volume intake. You get that huge gap up, trades back in, you get a nice pop before it just trades right down to this neckline. You see, trades down, holds that neckline, catches a bid, flat bottom break, rejects it once on the way up, and look at your gap fill buy. So not too much gap fill buying, but had you bought that gap, you got rewarded very well. Earnings were also today. I haven't looked at the earnings. If I was trading an earnings play, I'd want to look at the earnings, at least get a feel for it. But not my cup of tea right here. I would much rather trade this BGLC. You show a move up to the level. It's just trying to hold this one level, but you actually have a catalyst for sort of a bull flag continuation. You get 1, 2, 3 candle pullback. What's it do on the next candle? It gives you a false wick, so that wick of buying right there, no volume, but this would be the golden entry if you think that this was going to end up breaking that high. So even if this came back in, this hammer candle is where your levels are currently at. Maybe a false break of that one if it wicked into the top of that candle. Or if you're looking at this as a retracement play, I would want to see that half, which your half meets in right at $1. So I would be a lot more comfortable trading this over TMBR. One, you have range. Two, the buyers are already starting to come in into the middle of the original move. So you take the original move right here, and that 702 deadly. Same way 702 is deadly to the upside, I look at it as to the downside as well. Where if you just put an order in, you've seen the move, you put the order in off that 702, you're 9 pennies in the money right now. And why I would use the retracement tool right here is because you truly take out a level. You know, I'm not going to say that this is a perfectly set downtrend. But when you break that downtrend, this is where your move starts. And another thing is you also take out a neckline. So you're trying to set lower high, lower high, lower high. Here is your true neckline break right here. So it not only is your 702 meeting in right around this 90, 95, 94 range, that is the golden entry for this neckline. This is what I call a nut up or shut up candle. If you don't buy it on this neckline break, you risk it ripping higher than what it is. Like this could have easily ripped up through the highs already today. But your true nut up or shut up candle, whereas, okay, are you going to take it? How much conviction do you truly have on this? This is the candle that is nut up or shut up. So for these wick lows to come in right where the nut up or shut up area was, you know, it could be something here. But light volume, I don't know if I would trust it. But that's what I'd say. If I was looking at this to be anything, I would say here you are at this one flat level. That's my opinion. I'm not interested in that company that bought them out. Les Pharma AS has dedicated decades of research and development to advance the science of. I'm not into skin that much. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I'm the wrong guy for that. But NVAX, you know, catching a pullback candle, indecision candle. So on this pullback candle, it gets back down as low as 90s, and now acting like we actually want to go break higher. Is it gonna break out right here? Good lord, good lord, lordy lordy. I gotta check the schedule for the day. I gotta see what time I gotta go in. I'm pretty sure I'm scheduled. I had Friday off. Was very fortunate. Let's go see where this job is at today. West Center and Garwin. So it's about a 30-minute drive. So that means I gotta be into the shop no later than 1:15. So I probably have another hour. I did make a little breakfast this morning, which is unusual. One sec, you said something as well. Yeah, I just looked at it as well. Dead and unpredictable. Yeah, I would say it's just not my cup of tea. It's not terrible, but if I was just looking at the top movers on my list and I just scroll through them, and I just want to see what the charts look like, I would say this Invos, not a bad move. Your volume is actually clear that it's picked up. You also have a neckline break. Look at this neckline break. Shoom. This is a nut up or shut up candle. Boom. You're pulled back right into the neckline. Nut up or shut up candle. And boom. You miss out on the move. Now you're trading sideways. Is it going to be something that takes out the high? Has a nice trend line, but a little bit overextended from where I'd want my fill to come in at. Where if you look at BGLC, my nut up or shut up candle is actually where we're fairly close to. You have a catalyst for potentially holding a trend line. And I'd say clear out. If I was running an out for this, I'd almost want to respect that neckline. And, you know, this move doesn't have much. I'd want to switch to a 30-minute chart. And you can see that 98. So give it the body of this candle, which is sort of right into that area where you could double bottom and get wicked out. and kind of a washout top look on that 30 minute. But I would say if I was gonna play one of these top movers, it would be BGLC more than likely. Another catalyst is that you are still weak. You have some levels that can easily be trimmed. But if you're lucky enough, this could be something that at the right closing price, you could maybe hold this into the close and maybe get a large gap up. But this daily chart looks like crap too. So I just don't know if it's something that I would hold into the close. We can go see what TUP looks like. TUP flirting big players around that middle ground, and another thing is getting very close to that gap. So a nice 2 hold. I would expect some rejection of these previous lows, which it already did today. So here's your flat bottom break. Boom. This could easily be the short-term high, but the volume is picking up. They have earnings. Their expected profitability. If they actually if they actually put up profitability, which they didn't here, they did here, they did here, they did here. So maybe a lot of over exaggeration of these earnings, potentially why it traded down. But when you have earnings, when this really started going, this was middle of July, and your earnings are a month later, you see that run up in volume and price leading up to this earnings report. If they can put up that profitable quarter and maybe even beat, this could easily end up taking out the highs, which is that would be something. So TUP, I'm going to say there is some potential here with TUP, and looking at how we haven't looked at TUP in a little while, but you have a descending channel right here. It gaps up through that. If I were to just mark this trend line right here, uh, there is some potential. Potentially building a U, you have a confirmed higher low. You probably break some sort of downtrend, whether that's set perfectly or not. It more than likely is not set perfectly, but flirting with it could be something there. Very well could be something there. And another big part is this is a flat bottom right here, and also a gap discredits that completely with the first candle, blowing right through that. But I would say this is a clear resistance level. So is there going to be enough breakout buyers for this 315? I don't know. But TUP, BGLC, maybe some potential. Looking at Acer, no. Holding that previous high, so Pan W, not as volatile, but there's going to be liquidity on the book for that name. Looking at Pan W, I thought their earnings report was average at best. Put up a gap EPS of 64 cents for a $240 something stock. Yeah, I look at this name as still overvalued, but a lot of people are trying to price in future earnings, and I just don't know. I would say more of a chart buy right here. Wicking or setting a close and wicking into that 200 flat is a monster, and I wouldn't say monster, but it is a level for Pan W right there. I just don't know. Moderna, look at this chart setup. Hasn't changed. Almost could have had the frickin' wick low, but we were a lot more interested in these lower 90s. You got a neckline right here at 80. We're trying to be as patient as possible on the name, but the earnings were dog meat, negative 360. But Moderna has a lot of invested capital into their pipeline, which would be the only reason why I would maybe think about Moderna. But hey, that space in terms of long plays can be a little bit dicey as well. I mean, other than that, the top movers for today, I just really don't see much. But I will say that BGLC, playing with that one, you'd be 2% in the money. You can see it wicking down into the level. If I was gonna play one, I would probably play this BGLC. Personal opinion. No, let's stop rambling about that. I'm gonna let my dogs out. They have been waiting patiently. My dog is just sitting right here. Uh, so I'm gonna go let the dogs out, and I will be right back. If you're still here, Drift said he'll be right back. Okay. I'll say something in the chat. Uh, I'll be back. And we are back. Is my mic working? Sure is. This BLGC leaving a nice wick right into the middle of this green move, which is also very good support based off of this move as well. So that $1 meeting in right at that half, very good look in my opinion. And kind of enticing me if we weren't coming into this lunch hour. I would be more inclined to maybe try this. But we're just gonna be patient. Let's put an alert right off that one though. If that wants to come into that one flat, we're gonna think about it. We're gonna have Bank of America. We're gonna have Warner Bros. We just barely didn't get those 50s. That's why, when I'm talking about playing a level, I don't know how many times in the last couple weeks where we've said, hey, we're right at the level. We want to put an order in right here. Let's mark it in first and then buy that level. If it pulls back in, it pulls back in. We've also had multiple times where we've missed some fills by pennies. Uh, GM, a title name today, we miss it by pennies right off the open. We're on the bid at 32.50. We miss it by 7 pennies. Whereas, okay, let's market order, even though it's catching a bill, let's market order and then put that order in. Where the start of this position could have easily started off great. Devon Energy, kind of given this is getting to the point where we're gonna put an alert in. Let's put an alert in at 50.07. Invex looking like it's gonna need to be the pullback area. BGLC, I would say, goes on a run, trades down, builds that flat top. So if this were to get over top of that 108, I think you're going to see a nice green candle come in and maybe try to take out 116, where if it does take out 116s, man, this thing could really get going. So just looking at it, I know it's only got 5 million on the Devon. As soon as I put that in, are you kidding me? It was holding like a glove this whole time. Um, yeah, let's just throw one in right off of 50 flat. I like the area. I think it's buying a knife, and maybe it needs to pull back in a little bit further. But that 50 flat, I think, looks pretty decent for an ad. Saying that we just averaged some up today. Um, let's just do a small order. DVN. Let's go right off. Let's just market a couple shares, half of what that order size was supposed to be. And that should have gave us 03s right there. Now let's put another order right off that 50 flat. Hometown Veterinary. Looks like that's going to cost me a pretty penny. Damn dog, all he does is cost you money. People say, oh, it's an investment. The dog is an investment. Yeah, right. Price of dog food's almost doubled since I got my dog 2.5 years ago. An investment. Does nothing but cost you money. I would advise, unless you're using the dog to go hunting or whatever reason, if you think it's an anxiety thing, okay. Just know that it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And that 50 should have just gave us a fill. So we'll look away from this. This is all the buying that we're going to be doing with Devon today. And actually, I would say it looks like it's going to come back in lower. But I feel really good about those shares that we bought right there, and we'll see if we look back at this in a couple weeks and see if it was a good start to add to that position or not, or if it wants to come back in down to these lower 48s. Uh, 48.50 I think is going to be a level that the next level that we're going to add, and coming on in on a red engulfing. This is why sometimes buying that red engulfing is a bad idea. Uh, but I still think that it can wick into this 50 level and close above it today. So we'll see. We'll see. I think I got good value on those shares, and we will see how it goes from there. BGLC, man, I would say that was the one. Had I just been watching it more, you had a chance right off this one flat, you'd be 8% in the money. Uh, I would say that was the one I felt had the best setup. Of in the volume was not there, but you know what I say about the volume. How I really don't care if that setup is there. All it takes is for more liquidity to be bought off that book than sold. But rejecting that level for now, so maybe this can give a curl and come back into this to this 3 level. But with this setup right here, built the flat top, took out the flat top. I think it's going to try and put it, and you can see the volume picking up. So some selling pressure coming in. That was probably for some trims into this golden entry. If we did a retracement tool from top move, bottom move, that is a wick into that 702 and your last retracement at 111. So I would expect some ask pressure to be in this range, but you already got that. Which had I got a nice fill in these middle 90s to a dollar, that would be where I'd be on the tape for some trims, probably some 1/10 trims or however you go about trimming down a position or the levels to the upside. But an 8% move off that one flat, a very nice start to that position had we tried it. Um, but that's just being able to look through a watch list of 642 tickers now we had on this watch list. And right there, just being able to pick one out. It's not a clear, obvious one based off of volume, but you'd still be holding the position and potentially looking for some upside movement. That's just a prime example. We do this every single day. Every single day. You know what I'm saying, Drift? It's a drop in the bucket. Warner Bros. Slightly in the money a little bit. That's nothing to brag about. Devin really giving up the ghost, so a couple fills there. 10 cents out of the money off that 50 flat. It is what it is. But I would still say this has really good support in this area. If we just mark this neckline as is the bottom end range right here, uh, I would say it's a decent setup. Um, Invax, nice pump to the upside, up 14.71% on the day. So a brand new swing position that we really started on Friday. Started building that position pretty good on Friday. A decent start to that, where we only have about 20% of the position taken off. We think that we have a lot more upside on this name. So by no means, I think we have all of our trims on this name today. Unless it really pumped up to those 850s today, I'd probably be thinking about the longer term retracement, where 850 is right in front of that next 702. So that's going to be the area that we're looking for. Looking at plug, it's been a while. We cut plug on a really right off the earnings day, retraced all I think 62. We seen the wick top, we seen it pull right back up into that area. We said, hey, we were either gonna cut this down here below the wick, or we are gonna wait for it to test up to these lows. And we said that was good enough, and we tried it, and we did. Made a very good decision. It was still a very profitable name. We were trying the 10 level, and we had trims all the ways up into the 13s, over 30% move. and held a piece in for the dream, gave it a chance at the earnings. It was setting up bearish on the earnings. It breaks down those lows. Couldn't catch a bid to even retest it. That's a kind of a catalyst for more downside pressure, in my opinion. Doc, we're still holding that small position here. Getting as low as 46s today. Uh, but we like this support. We're not gonna, maybe if it gets underneath of 45s, that is the start of the gap right there. 47s. If maybe a stop underneath of the lows, give it 46.50. If it gets underneath that, maybe we'll think about cutting. But kind of a neckline. Maybe needs to come back down here and test these lows down near 40s. Still Neo of stocks for today. This is the only one right around that middle ground. Has a tight channel. All it would take is a gap up over that and some continuation. And before you know it, that name would be printing up in the 12s more than likely. BAC, anything in these 28s I think is getting very close. We're going to wait for these 28.50s. But 28.50s is going to get bought. You can count on me being on the bid here at these 28.50s. Maybe that comes in this week. I'd say a good chance it comes in this week. Baba holding slight green. BGLC up to those 112s. I mean, can we call it out any better? What said building the flat top. I'd expect a green engulf. If it's going to work, you're going to see a green candle start coming in, taking out those highs. We just wicked up the 13s. It's a 13% trade if you were late to the trade and got it off one flat. 13%. 12% in the money still. Yeah, that was the one that we would have tried right there. And then TUP, we said TUP was a reasonable setup breaking that downtrend. If it pulls back in maybe in those 90s, it's something you can see it kind of giving that look like, hey, we want to build this frowny face. But not a terrible look here on TUP. Washout tops, but really setting up this flat top right here. This SPGC, also not a half bad look. Actually, gonna go pull up the tape on this one. We can maybe try a lot on this. One single lot. SPGC. But setting up this flat top, holding this 21. I think the risk reward of 10 pennies right here is not half bad. We do have a little size on the tape right here. Let's try and build in small here. We're gonna try this. So we got our first fill, and at the end of this candle, not able to hold this neckline, but let's see where that fill came in at. We got 88s for our first fill. So SBGC, we are going to try this and see what this has in store. SPGC. My out's going to be the 21. I'm not going to give it underneath 75s. 75s, I might give it just a few pennies. But by no means is this one that we're going to put a lot of conviction into. Underneath the body candle, I'd say is probably a bearish setup. Candles turning green off the start right here. So maybe with this small position, we'll just take a small win if it gets up to 3. And we'll just cut it. And if it comes back in, then we can have some leeway to try it again. GM still holding 33s. 95s. We got 2 lots on 96s. There's 97s. There's 99s. This is where we said we were just gonna look to maybe get a print on the name. And we're just gonna go on the ask and get rid of this small order. Take a small win if those 3s do print again. Probably just missed my opportunity. But from 88s just a little bit ago, trying to get 3s right there, wouldn't have been a half bad little trade. And we still think that we can get the SPGC. We got a 4-penny spread, 93s to 97s. If I can take out this 97, there wasn't really much size on 99s or even 3 flat. I seen 301 was on the ask, but it never tapped 3, so none of that actually went through the tape. Maybe it did. BGLC, given that stair step, so right up to that range, I'd say 104 would be that next level. We can probably cancel this. But I still think that's a reasonable setup right in there. So that wick coming into the middle of this red move, I would say, is a bearish setup for a possible test lower. But a lot of time left on this candle. We're not gonna say that, oh, wick came in the first minute of the candle, we're gonna this is done. No, I think it has a chance. Just not much volume here. Devon continuing to the downside, wicking right at that neckline wick. So maybe a little patience could have been used there, but all in all, I think those are going to be good long-term shares, or at least swing trade shares. But SPGC showing that test up to 3. By all means, this position is very, very small still. We don't even have a single lot on the name. But 285s, I would say, is a reasonable area. Just giving it these body and wick lows right here. That the longer this candle develops, I'd want to see. I was just getting ready to say, I want to see indecision. So as long as it shows me indecision, we can still get that pop up. Looking around still, I wouldn't say that there's anything we're really super crazy about. Honestly, the stuff that I love is already right up here. PayPal, just be patient. I'm looking for mid 50s. Mid 50s, great area to add in my opinion. DFS, these low 90s, this 90 level is a monster level. And I mean, just going to the daily, you can see. I look at that. That is what I call a monster level. Looking over at Geo, very good level building here at these sevens. Baba, you have a beautiful ascending channel. Near the bottom end of the channel, I wouldn't be surprised to see this make a push up to those 150s. I know that sounds crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it. Neo, you have a tight descending channel. All it would take is a small gap up, push up to 12, and just like that, whole dollar move that you'd be looking for where you can trim and maybe an Invax. I mean, you want to talk about a nut up or shut up candle. This nut up or shut up candle here, 775, I'd say was your nut up or shut up. We had one trim leading up into that. We had a couple trims at that. Our best trim on the name is at 819. I'm just lifting my hand up, just saying, what else? What else do you want? What else do you want? Are you not entertained? You know what I'm saying? But you want to talk about a trend line hold and holding some resilience. Here's 830s. Here's the 88s coming on in. So I think we are going to go on the bid here at these 85s and just give it a chance to maybe be some sort of a trend line building this flat top here for 3. We were on the ask. Let's just go take that order on the ask off and let's think about, okay, my dog wants to get underneath my desk. More than likely uh, he's going to try and unplug something. So if my whole screen goes black, I have an idea that is because of my dog. If this does put that red candle through, I will know that this is probably a loser. But looking at BGLC, man, a nice wick. What did we talk about? We talked about that previous high at 105. Look at that wick right into that. I'd say that is a reasonable look, but the other one that I'd say is setting up is potentially this SPGC. Puppy. Devon continuing that downside pressure. Uh, Breaking below the descending channel, I would say this neckline, the body candles potentially still able to hold, but we're just going to let this one breathe. We had our ads on it today. But other than that, I mean, Invax, we are probably going to respect these 850s. I don't see how else to play it. We'll keep taking these 125 trims, and when the move is done, we'll try and hold a piece for a larger move and go from there. And here is 86 coming into the tape, so we are going to potentially give this a little ad right here. We're just going to go with the same size as that first order, still not even getting up to that single lot. But let's go ahead and get a buy-in on this, and we're going to get another ad, SPGC, down here in these 70s. Oh man, I just didn't get the order in time. Let's try and get another ad right here. 82s are stacking. Let's just go right on the bid off at 80s, and oh man, right back up to 92s. Oh man, if I wasn't just getting ready, we got an 82 fill on that first one. But the buyers are there. So if this does want to come back in, we are going to respect it. Oh man, we were just getting that first order set. We were getting ready to buy some more right there. That's the move down where true risk reward was there, where getting those shares off those 280s, only giving it 10 cents a stop was really good, a really good out to have. But now bid stacked up at 91s. I would say a couple really good ads, a very small position, and at the same time, Invex continuing to push higher. Where I'd say let's get an alert off these 844s. And then before we go to work today, we're gonna throw some orders out for in case it wants to make a move. BGLC, I still think that's a reasonable look too, as well. Oh man, look at that wick top. That is, or that wick bottom. That is a very good low. And I would have liked to have some more size. I just thought that we were gonna get 84s first. And 94 is stacking. This is given a really good look. Let's see if we can hold this for a potential 3 break here. Bid still chasing this up to 95s. Live trade. exactly how I like to build a trade. Our first fill coming in at 88. We tried getting a 3 fill. Had we gotten a 3 fill, we definitely would have had a little bit more size built in for this name. But looking at the tape, tight spread, 1 penny spread, no size on the ask or the bid. GNS kind of discrediting the descending channel a little bit, but just adjust that briefly. SPGC, there's your 3 break. Let's see if we can get bullish here. Live trade taken for you guys. I mean, two live callouts. You know, the BGLC right off that one flat. You know, gave you a 13, 14 penny move. But now this SPGC really testing this flat top. Uh, let's just go and take a little bit of profit here. Let's see if it can give me one more tiny push up. We're in the preview for a 10% trim. There's the wick up into the threes. Is it going to be able to break these threes? Took out all that size. There's 50 lots on the threes for the breakdown. But now reclaiming threes and some lots stacking on threes immediately. 44 lots on 98. Pan W really coming on in, but I'd say if I was looking to trade it, I'd say this 240 would be that level. I'd want to try. It's wicking down towards it right now. SPGC, you know, I still am maybe interested in adding some more size if it comes back down to the 80, 85 range and then breaks down. And there is this 3 break right here. We'll see if we can get some size stacked on 3s real quick. Our climb, there's a 5-cent spread, so I'd like to just get this out as soon as we get this spread tightened up a little bit. Nine lots on 3s. And here we are starting to get that bid stacked up to those 306. We should have gotten a fill right there. SPGC. And let's just go on the ask right away for this, just in case this wants to be a washout top. Let's go 312. And we're going to go right on the ask here. So we did get that fill for a 10% trim. It wasn't anything crazy. But continuing to try and hold this 3. Now you see BGLC still kind of trading in this level, trying to wick into that. But if it does want to break down, uh, and there's 307s. Is this gonna give us? Let's go 312. We're gonna take another 10% on this name. But you can see this flat top that is building right here. This is a pretty good setup right here. And there is kind of a washout bottom. So only one fill, or a washout top. So only one fill to the upside. We're gonna go and cancel this order. So only one 10% trim. And really I don't like seeing that washout top right there. But we are going to be ready in case this wants to reclaim 3s. BGLC just giving up a good chunk right here. So honestly, this is in that long territory, but it's like, is this going to be able to hold? Pan W, you know, I'm sure some people definitely had some tight stops right there. Nice flush right back into the level, but this flush comes right back into where I'd be interested in the long. Yeah, 10 lots on 94s right here. $25 lots on 95, so still has some good size. Devon, 2 consecutive wicks into that level. Baba, a nice slow churn off the open, puts in a nice green candle and just trades sideways. This is honestly an ideal setup of something that I'd want to get a fill if I didn't have a position on it when I was looking for it to trade down to a trend line. That doesn't mean go punch in, of course, but I would say that's a decent setup for the day. I never even went in. All I did was look at the daily chart for this, but looking at the 15-minute, that's a good move. It's trying to put wicks into this low, so this is your resistance. If you can take out that resistance, I would expect a green candle that takes out this high, personally. SPGC, taking out the highs. Is this going to be something that can really get going? We're going to go with that 312. And there is 09s, 54 lots on 09. Is this going to be able to take it out? As soon as it takes those out, we're going to throw this 312 order in for a 10% trim and see if we can just get a washout top. But if we don't get the washout top, we get the continuation, 325s. We'll trim this all the ways up to the level. No size, a 10-cent spread, 298s to. So kind of an open game to see where this, where these either longs or shorts or sellers are going to try and set up this spread. But wicking into those 308s is a clear level of resistance. But we're going to go on the ask at these 7s, 07s. SPGC, if this flushes back underneath 3, we're just going to take the orders off. But 25 lots at 01s here. And we are going to get ready for another trim right off those. We can either go 10s or 12s, but I think we can get 12s. If 10s print, I think 12s print. No 307 fill, and trading underneath this 3, we have 1 lot on 99s. So we're on the ask here at 307, and as soon as we get that fill. And and there is our fill off of 07s. Invax on a nice pump right here. Invax, we're gonna go take a piece off here. We are gonna take a. Oh man, I have a conflicting order. What's my conflicting order? Um. Holy buckets! I'm on the wrong account. Jesus criminy! Let's go sell out of this SPGC. SPGC. Uh. Man, that is a kick in the nuts. Yeah, let's just go take some clean profits. Let's man. We're just gonna go take that profit. It sucks. It's right where I would actually be looking to add if I didn't have the account. So let's good lord. That's a rookie mistake from Reliable Rudy. Rooked it. Absolutely rooked it. Let's go take a piece off this Invax. There we go. Taking a piece off of Invax, and we're gonna go on the. That was a 1/50th trim. 1/50th trim on Invax. And we're gonna go on the ask here at 45s. And we'll do another 50th trim. And we will also go right on the ask at 50s. SPGC, unbelievable. I can't believe it. Rookie mistake. Full red engulfing candle coming on in. Nice confirmed higher low. It was able to push up to 60s, 63s. I didn't even realize Nvidia is just on a straight tear. Um, for all I know, this ends up breaking the highs. I think it's a short. Personal opinion. Bet against strength. I would say the closer you get to that earnings report, the higher the price is going to be. But leading into that earnings report, nice candle, decreasing volume 3 consecutive days, now taking out those highs. I'd say you're probably going to see 85 break, 485 high break. SPGC. Gave you a ton of liquidity. I think you can see the catalyst we have drawn here on the commodity and the catalyst for the downtrend. A couple of wick lows trying to hold here in these low 20s. I think this is potentially a reasonable long play for a newer IPO. Paying a 20-cent dividend. Their earnings report was pretty solid. Anticipated to continue being profitable, continuing to put up those solid numbers in revenue. Uh, I think it's a reasonable long. Lumen taking out the lows, probably setting up a leg down. Build the gap today. Is that going to be any weight to that or not? Probably not. KRE taking out the lows. I'll be interested again off this neckline. 85s. If I would have just stayed watching this, I probably would have had a fill. The volume increase right there is very interesting. Everything's given this look. Everything's given this look right here. Devon's a little bit interesting. Everything's given that look. I'm sure the NQ, yeah, given the opposite. And those 19s is reasonable. Ten-X was one that we were really watching last week, really developing this flat top here. Wow. I just hit a max of tickers that I can add to the watch list. I guess 650 is the max. Or 642 is the max. What a strange number to be the max amount of tickers. Let's go to volume and sort that by low. And we actually have to take some tickers off. We're going to take this one off. We're going to take this off. We're going to take this off. This off, this off, this off, this off, this off, this off, this off. Alright, well that was definitely took off a good chunk of that. Are you kidding me? This is opened back up though. This is gonna call it for the live stream today though. Yeah, just a quick recap. Warner Bros. We tried this 1253s and we're on the bid at 1250. Still no fill. GM we averaged up our position at 3302s today. Invax we had multiple trims and we're on the ask at 45s. Just haven't gotten the fill. Neo was a strong name. Just kind of trading sideways. Still trading in a descending channel. A tight channel. If I look at the daily chart, all it would take is a gap up, fill this 1150, maybe trade back down, hold, and we're looking for a little bit more of a bid. Disney holding a level. Vail was on watch today. Baba, we think that this is a reasonable setup for the long. PayPal, we want to see this start to break down a little bit. Nasdaq short, tested the uptrend. We'll see how it acts there. Top movers on the day, SPGC. Is it going to be able to hold this level? Tough to say. Very tough to say. Yeah, that's a recap of everything today. I appreciate anybody who tuned in. And, oh, Drift, did you just get back now? I just went over to my chat. Yeah, I gotta get ready for work. It was a fun little day. Invax, we did have a fill up in those upper 30s. Oh, my bad, Drift. Yeah, I gotta go get a little bit of food in me before I go back for lunch. We're on the ask at 45s, and we'll probably put one on the ask at 48s. Enjoy the job. I got an easy one today. It should only take me about 3 hours. And then we'll see what my day holds after that. Might go to the poker room today. So if I do go to the poker room, wish me luck. You know, Drift. Some people I call out before I go to the poker room. I just ask them, "Hey, what's the hand today?" So before I leave, if you're still there, give me a reasonable hand to play at the poker room if I go there today. You know, it can be a pocket set, it can be a suited 10-8, or if you give me a reasonable hand that has a straight or a flush opportunity, I will try it and I'll play it aggressive. And, you know, I'll play it accordingly. If I get 3-bet, normally I'm probably just going to fold it anyways. But if you give me a reasonable hand to play aggressive, if I get that hand, I'll play it aggressive at the poker room today. Oops, wrong thing. So I'll give you a little bit of time to give me a hand to play, and by no means are you going to be losing me money in a sense. At the end of the day, it's my decision to make it. So you give me a reasonable hand, I'll talk about it tomorrow if I get it. Maybe I don't even get the hand. And if you don't feel comfortable giving me a hand or don't know much about poker, that's fine too. You don't have to say anything. But I'll give you another 20 seconds to give me a hand, and I'll play that hand when I go to the poker room today. Fan of blackjack. Okay, ace jack. Oh, it's just percentages. That's all poker is, percentages. Understanding with poker. Yeah, I'll teach you. We'll push this off. Oh yeah, by all means. Poker is a very big mind game, but also percentages is very big. Normally I'm a very tight player. I don't, but when I'm in, people at the table, I'm not necessarily a regular, but they've seen me before. A lot of times is even if you have a bad hand, it's all about playing the same way and not giving a tell. Like I look at my hand the same exact way every single time. I sit in the same position every single time, whether I got a hammer or whether I got a weak hand. And even if I'm going to end up folding, I want them to think that I have a good hand. Uh, Lowering players, getting people to fold increases your odds of winning. And yes, in poker, uh, it is key to understand what the best possible hand on the table is yet. But we'll go into that more tomorrow or later on in the week. But um, yes, poker is a skill, and I would say adding my total win loss or my total losses, I would say I am probably slightly in the negative. But the last time we went to the poker room was we had a pretty good day. And it's all about building a skill. I'm a young guy. Same thing I do with the market. I'm trying to get better every single day. Every time I go to the poker room, it's all about getting better and building that skill. I still do sports bet, and when I'm sports betting, I'm trying to develop a skill, develop a strategy that I can go to, and sort of like lean towards as a way of adding extra income without really adding that extra time. Obviously, poker, you got to put the time in to go to the poker room, but sports betting is another thing that I look at as, just trying to find extra ways to bring in income. And if there's a skill to be built, you sign me up because I'm all about getting better. I don't care if it's getting better about going to the bathroom. If there is something that I can take a positive and a negative to analyze, I'm going to take the positives moving forward. You know what I'm saying? That's what this channel is about. Getting better regardless of what you're doing. I don't care if you're playing video games. I don't care if you're training a dog. I don't care if it has something tied to your work. It's all about being more efficient, getting better, and having a way up. If there's no room to improve on an activity or a hobby or something that you're doing, normally it's not something that interests me. But that being said, we will. And you know me, I'm going to start rambling when I get onto the top. But we will go more in depth to the poker uh, on uh, on tomorrow's live stream if you're around. But that's going to call it for me today. Drift, I appreciate you tuning in, man. You mean a lot to this channel. I hope you understand that. And you will be remembered, whether you take a couple month break or whatever the case. But maybe I don't see you for a year. Hopefully that isn't the case. But if I didn't see you for a long time, you came back, you are always welcome here, and you are very loyal to this channel, and I really appreciate that. So you have a good day too, Drift. I'm excited to go about the poker tomorrow, and I'll let you know how I do if I go tonight. But that's gonna call it for the day. I appreciate you, man.